autonomous driving on road safety. In Italy, there is a very ambitious legislation regarding the process of digital transformation of roads. Through the Smart Road Decree, the government has given a strong impulse to smart roads and road testing of automated vehicles. The decree provides that by 2025, the entire part of the European infrastructure network, TEN-T, Trans-European Network Transport, will become a smart road, therefore a connected and intelligent road. In Italy, ANAS, the main national operator of state roads and highway, is also at the forefront of the promotion and testing of V2X communication technologies, enabling the deployment of autonomous driving and connected vehicles. ANAS is gradually implementing a plan to transform the main roads of its network into smart roads. The ANAS Smart Road is green and totally electric will be the connected and automated car like the one created by VisLab, the first company authorized to experiment autonomous driving on Italian roads, which without the intervention of the driver, has already covered many thousands of kilometers on ANAS state roads and on urban roads open to traffic in Parma and Turin. Italy, therefore, takes up the challenge of the European Commission for a road system that is increasingly green and increasingly digital. In Europe, work has been underway for some time on an increasingly digital road. In the PIARC B2 Task Force report on connected and autonomous driving, which the Italian PIARC committee translated into Italian, roads are now classified based on the levels of support that infrastructure can give to autonomous driving. This ranges from the lowest level, conventional infrastructure without digital information, to the medium level, where all dynamic and static information on the infrastructure is available in digital format, up to the highest level, defined as cooperative driving, where the infrastructure itself is able to guide both individual vehicles and groups of vehicles in order to optimize traffic flows. The new frontier of autonomous driving, which in many ways is already a reality, promises extraordinary results on the road to safety. In the world, every year, about 1.2 million people lose their lives on the roads. There are about 20,000 deaths in Europe every year. The European Commission has calculated that 94% of accidents depend on factors related to driver behavior. A well-programmed autonomous vehicle could avoid them with extraordinary consequences for the protection of human life. Finally, with the consent of PIARC, given the importance of this event, we would like to encourage the widest possible dissemination of the recording of the proceedings with Italian subtitles. Thank you and good work.
Thank you, Mr. Crocco, for these nice words. And we give the floor now to Mr. Claude Van Rooten, President of the World Road Association. Claude, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Buongiorno. Hello, Domenico on the video. Hello, Leonardo. Hello, all Italian friends, but hello also all the friends of the whole world, even from Belgium. I have an expert colleague who is much more specialist than myself, who assists now in the meeting. Why some words? Well, exchange knowledge, that's our thematic. Exchange knowledge about new thematics is important, but at the same time, road safety is a crucial issue. And when the technical committee road safety, hello John, the chair, When the Road Safety Committee has a special working group on implications of connected and automated vehicles, we have to underline and to support that. It is a clear message to the future. We are a world organization. Some countries are not yet in that development, but as we always defend, we must make the developments of one country available for the other countries. And that's the most important point. We have an international panel, more Italians, and that's logical when there is an organization by the National Committee. And I want to greet here the Italian National Committee, who is always active, organizing many seminars. That's really a nice point. This is also a virtual seminar. Unfortunately, we saw so nice pictures of Rome, but we are not there, sorry. We certainly would have preferred. I have very good souvenirs in my 5 years presidency coming to Rome, all the meetings there. But okay, it is so, and I like my new slogan, PIARC goes on. We go on even if COVID is there. And we certainly go on. It's not because I am now in my last presidency that PIARC will stop. In the opposite, I do not yet see my successor, Nazir Alli, but I want to tell you that he has now been elected as my successor. I hope I can present him, and I hope you can give him the floor for a few seconds. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a very constructive seminar.
Thank you very much, Claude, for these nice words. I'm looking for Nazir, but I don't see him. Maybe we can give him the floor later when he joins.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Claude. Let's provide the floor now to the chair of the Technical Committee 3.1, Mr. John Milton. John, please.
Thank you very much. Safety is at a pinnacle of change with connected and automated vehicles, and much of what you'll be hearing the next 2 days, I think, is going to really touch upon that level of change. We are so happy to be here. I wish we were in Rome. It would be a great trip and a great opportunity to see and learn from our Italian colleagues, as well as the international community that makes up PIARC. In the next couple of days, we'll also be meeting with Working Group 3.1, the Technical Committee on Safety, to discuss some very important topics overall to what we're doing in terms of safety in our 3 working groups. And just really briefly, I'll go over them. Working Group 1 is our specific road safety issues for low and middle income countries. The effect of connected and automated vehicles will over time touch those low and middle income countries, and it's important for us to understand those potential implications. Implementation of proven countermeasures is our Working Group 3.1.2. Update of the road safety audit guidelines, understanding how safety is affected by the designs and how we operate our facilities is critically important, and will help us understand the real implications to infrastructure, to the changes in design, and what we're going to be doing as we move forward through the transitional times of connected and automated vehicles. We'll also we have 3.1.4, which is presenting you this workshop today, the implications of connected and automated vehicles. And I think they've put together an exceptional 2 days of discussion, and we'll be hearing more as we work through. In the update of the road safety manual, that is our North Star type document. It helps us understand, it gives us tools to provide to our colleagues about understanding road safety in its full implications, from safety management, design, and operations, all the way through the planning activities that we do on a day-to-day basis. We hope that you enjoy these next 2 days. We present to you many experts from around the world and the different ideas that they bring forth. Listen and learn. These are awesome peer exchanges, and I thank you very much. So Miguel.
Thank you very much, John, for these words. Inside the technical committee, we have several working groups, as John explained. We'll give the floor now to the co-leader of the working group related to road safety and autonomous and connected vehicles. Leonardo Annese, please, Leonardo, the floor is yours.
Benvenuti e benvenute a tutti a Roma, anche se virtualmente. The welcome was, of course, in Italian. Welcome to everybody, females and males, as we say here. We differentiate the gender. And I'm sorry we cannot host you in Rome. The original idea was to have you people in Rome, but unfortunately, you know that the pandemic does not allow everyone to freely travel around the world. But as still see, we are 82 attending this workshop. The workshop is probably the first experience for PIARC on the subject autonomous and connected vehicles and infrastructure. The Task Force B2, who will listen from later on in the day, has produced a nice report, and as Mr. Crocco said before, the Italian National Committee provided an Italian translation that we present afterward. And the workshop is born on the necessity to provide information not only on the technical aspects of the automated vehicles and infrastructure, but also give an outlook on what the consequences, implications on road safety and the social implications, which is always something that we do not really think about. So on session number 2, we will have psychologists that will talk about the impact and of acceptance of the automated vehicle and technology in general. And we'll have testimony of best practices from road management that have actually applied this new technology to their road network. So it's going to be the first event that we present, and I'm glad that we also have Mr. of course, Claude Van Rooten, our best friend from Italy, and thank you for the nice words you spent just a minute ago. And a welcome to the new president, Nazir Alli, who we greet very warmly as a friend of Italy and all of your community. Well, have a nice day. I'm sure you are going to enjoy everything, and I remind you that you can ask questions in the question and answer section of this workshop, and we will gladly answer to you and some other sessions that is previewed for the question and answer at the end of this session. Have a nice time and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. Claude, please.
If I may, Miguel, because I see that my successor in between is on the screen, and Nazir, I introduced already the fact that you are elected, and now begin with your best Italian words. No, you may do it in English. Welcome to the PIARC community, and if Miguel allows me, I give you with pleasure the floor.
Thank you very much to everybody, and good afternoon. I'm assuming that we're all in the same time zone, but for those of us who are not in the same time zone, I hope you're all having a good day. Claude, I'm sure that you've done the introductions, and I must say to everybody that Claude has been a friend of mine for many, many years now. Not only a colleague, but a friend as well. So let me also sound a word of caution, about Claude and about me and my friendship with Claude. We'll make sure that as far as PIARC is concerned, neutrality will always be observed. And I must say thank you to the Italian National Committee for having invited me, and this is my first sort of semi-official, I may call it semi-official because I'm still only the elect president. I haven't officially taken over, to say thank you for inviting me to be part of this particular program over the next 2 days. And I wish everybody very successful deliberations, because the topic that we are dealing with is extremely, extremely important in all of our lives. That's something that we can't avoid at all, but also more importantly, the future, as to what the future holds for us over there. This morning, as I was just listening to the radio, for instance, just give you an idea how Audi, the car manufacturers, were bragging about the first fully electric car, which will be available in South Africa in the new year. They're the first company to have come out with a fully one in South Africa. So this is the future, folks. The future is also driverless cars. How do we deal with over there? So road safety is becoming even greater for us than just purely in terms of how people drive. For that, thanks, Claude, again, and thanks to the National Committee of Italy for inviting me. Thank you. I'll be staying online. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nazir, for your kind words. As elected president of PIARC, you will take office 1st of January. We didn't say it. We are looking forward to it. Thank you to everyone who participated in this opening session, and thank you for keeping time. We are even in advance of time. So I will give the floor to the chair of the session number 1, the technical session number 1. This is John Milton, and he will walk us through the presentations. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miguel. And today, session 1 is the session on connected and automated vehicles, road safety implications. And what we're going to be doing this morning is we're going to be breaking the session into 2 different parts. So we'll go from about 14:30 to 15:45, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll have a second session. One thing that you can do that would be very helpful for us is to type into the chat if you have questions so that we can see them and work through them as we're speaking today. Each one of these sessions brings to you a different idea, a different implication of road safety. What I'll be doing is briefly introducing each session or each discussion, each presentation. And I would ask that the presenters take time to introduce themselves briefly, and that would be very, very helpful overall. At the end of each session, we'll have a question and answer session and debate, a discussion about the session overall. So we'll be taking the questions at the end. And with that, the first presentation that we have today is Connected and Automated Vehicles, a Zero Solution to Road Safety. The presenter is Matts-Ake Belin. He's the director of Vision Zero Academy, PIARC Verket. And Mats, if you're ready to go, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you, John, for your kind presentation. Let me see if I can share my screen here now. Let's see.
And Mats, as you get ready to present, I'd also, if you could introduce yourself, because I just cannot do justice to.
No worries, John. No, it's right. So I work for the Swedish Transport Administration, and I'm responsible for the Vision Zero Academy. But I'm also have one foot in research. I'm adjuncted as a professor at the Royal Institute of Technology. And today I will talk about connected and automated vehicles, zero solutions to road safety. And as you can see on my, hopefully you see my slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes, Mats, we can. We
yes,
can see
perfect.
It.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I put a question mark here because I think we definitely see an opportunity now to use this new technology for different purposes. But I think we need a strategical discussion of this technology now. And but before I start there, and as one of the presenter in the beginning just stated that road traffic injuries is a huge public health problem. It's a huge global health problem. And you know that WHO are doing all this list of all evil things that can happen to humans. And on this list, you will find road traffic injuries. So WHO, they have estimated that road traffic injuries is the 8th leading cause of death for all people of all ages. But it's also the leading cause of death for children, young adults in the age of 5 to 29 years. And in the same time, it's a huge difference now between different countries and different regions in our world. So a country like Sweden, for example, we have now lower than 2 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. And there are countries that have as many as over 30 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. So there is a very mixed situation in the world, and this new technology now, and we need a lots of different tools to work with this public health problem. And now, due to this digitalization, it gives us a new tool in our toolbox, and we need all tools that we can get to work with this problem. But before we jump into this discussion about technology, I would like to just refer to this guy, Cedric Price. He was an architect, and he wrote this book in 1966. And he was quite provocative, I would say. And he said that technology is the answer, but what is the question? And based on this book now, I have been a little bit inspired by him to put that in a little bit broader context. And those who have heard me before, you know that I try to compare a more traditional approach to road safety with a more Vision Zero approach to road safety. And I think that these different approaches to road safety also have a different set of questions that we need to answer. So let me start with this traditional approach to road safety. In this traditional approach, the problem that we try to solve is the problem with accidents. And as someone told for a while in the beginning, there is a kind of perception that 90% of all accidents is due to the human errors. 90% is due to human errors. It's a kind of mantra now. So it's been there since the introduction of the car in our society. So if you take that kind of perspective on this new technology, and you want to do something about the human behavior. And most people talking about it just as get the human behavior out of the loop. Despite the fact that an individual road user, we can drive 2-3 times around the globe without being involved in a crash. But from a more system perspective, of course, this is a problem. But we have to bear in mind that the humans are quite good on lots of things, I would say. But what is the appropriate goal then in that kind of context? Are we aiming for 0 accidents, or will we accept some accident or accept some risks? I think that this more traditional approach to this technology is quite blurry. It's not telling us loud and clear what is the actual aim with all this technology. So let me put that in a perspective on Vision Zero instead. Vision Zero, the problem that we try to solve with this Vision Zero is the problem with fatalities, serious injury. And according to Vision Zero, the reason why people get killed and serious injuries is because people are people. People make mistakes. And we have a certain tolerance against kinetic energy. So what we try to do in a Vision Zero kind of context is to control for harmful kinetic energy. That is the core business for us. Harmful kinetic energy is the COVID virus for road safety. That is what we try to control. And from a design point of view then, we would like to see it more like a holistic system perspective, not only one component, not only a behavior or a machine or whatever. You have to put that into a much more holistic system design perspective. And of course, in Vision Zero, it's very clear what we aim for. The aim for a safe system is no fatalities and no serious injuries. It's no accident, it's no fatalities and no serious injuries, because we know that we can control this harmful kinetic energy. So I would like to argue that this different perspective gives different solution, and it gives different view on what this technology, these connected and automated cars, what they are supposed to do, I would say. And let me start with this traditional approach there. So what we are trying to do with a more traditional approach is to solve the problem with accident. And now we're moving a little bit from that, we try to creating a perfect human being, and now we're moving to a perfect machine instead. So it becomes very much focused on a vehicle and transfer this vehicle to behave as a human. And when we do that, and we make the vehicle very isolated kind of component in a system, we see them almost like beginners, and they start to act like a kind of rule-based machines. If you see this Waymo car, for example, in California, they are very rule-based, and you got problems directly with the interactions with the rest of the traffic. Even that people get upset when they driving with cars. It makes it a little bit confused. And the thing is that when you do a rule-based, it might act in a perfect way in an intersection with traffic light, for example. But the thing is that if someone makes something wrong there, when you start to mix, for example, these automated cars with others in this transition phase, then the thing is that if someone drives against this red light in a typical in the situation now, and human, they will act on that. So they act on things that you don't really can plan for. So we as individual road user, we are much more capable to this interaction, I would say. So these cars can become quite a social, I would say. And now we have seen also, because we have some car manufacturers started to put this technology out in the traffic, and they will make mistakes. That's obvious. So they will not be perfect. So we have to consider these things. And if you take a Vision Zero kind of philosophy on this, and as I said, the problem that we try to solve there is not make sure that people are not get impacted by harmful energy. And the way that we try to do that in the Vision Zero approach is to creating a resilient, holistic system. So therefore, we have to see this infrastructure vehicle as a support to humans. We can't just see it as one component. We have to see it together. And I think that you might know that Sweden, we planned a very large demonstration project. It was Volvo together with the Swedish Transport Administration and the municipalities and others. With the plan was to set up, put 100 cars out in the traffic, in real traffic, and see what's happened. But in the end, it turned out that we only were able to put about 2 or 5 cars, because it's turned out to be very complicated. And these cars, they are allowed to be on the most safest part of our road transport system. They are allowed to be where we have quite low speed, where we don't have any mixed traffic. There is no risk for head-on collisions and that sort of thing. And we only allow them to go there when it's shiny weather and so on. And for me, that says just like that this machine now has to be in an environment. So therefore, a workshop like this become extremely important now, because it shows that all stakeholders that is involved in designing this road transport system, they need to be part of this movement now with this new technology. We can't just let for example, car industry, others, to do their own plans now. We have to start to work very closely to each other, because if we do that, then we can really take advantages of this technology and use it. I think that when we started to talk about the self-driving cars, it was a kind of hype. Everyone said that this will solve all these road safety problems. Now I think we are getting into a phase where we become more mature. We can have a much better discussion about this technology. And this workshop is trying to highlight some of these issues. For example, the interaction with unprotected road users, the transition phase, where when the part of this road transport system will be self-driving, rest will not be there. And also the discussion about low and middle income countries, because 90% of all fatalities in the world now, they occur in low and middle income countries. And how can we use this digitalization and this new technology to also support them to leapfrogging a little bit, to skip some of the mistake that some of the rest of the world have done before, and maybe make a quicker transition from something very unsafe to a more safe safe road transport system. So hopefully my presentation now will be inspiration and to some thoughts about these issues. So we start to have a more strategical discussion about how to use and how to deal with this new technology in the future. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Matts. That is a very excellent presentation. I really appreciate the look from a Vision Zero approach to connected and automated vehicles. It's going to be something that we all need to think about, and really, particularly in the transition period with connected and automated vehicles. What's that going to mean in the future as we mature and see the transition of the vehicle fleet? And so again, I ask if any of you have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat. That will help us to look at them and work through them as we have the opportunity at the end of the session to ask questions. And so with that, I'd like to move on to the next presentation, and I'll go ahead and move this over so I can see a little bit better. The next presentation, it relates to data for road safety, safety-related traffic information from vehicle-generated data across brands and borders. And this is Timo Hoffman from the Federal Highway Research Institute at BEST. Data is going to be vitally important for us, no doubt. And so this will be an excellent presentation to help us along the discussion path. So, Timo?
Yes.
And please introduce yourself as you go on.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Timo Hoffman. I work for the German Federal Highway Research Institute, BAST. And there I've been involved in a activity, data task force, which turned into the Data for Road Safety a partnership. And yeah, I prepared some slides to explain to you a little bit what we have been up to. as you might know, if you're from Europe and maybe also from other places, in Europe there's a delegated regulation on safety-related traffic information. In this delegated regulation, which is applicable law in all member states, there are several categories of safety-related traffic information defined. You see them listed here, A to H, it's mandatory for every organization, public or private, if they have data on these categories of safety-related traffic information, that this data needs to be made available at the member states' national access points. Some of those hazards are very well suited to be detected by vehicles rather than the infrastructure. From the road operators' side of things, it's quite difficult to have sensors on the whole network, whereas vehicles going through the whole network are for some of these categories quite well suited to detect these events. For example, temporary slippery road, unprotected accident areas. If there's a crash with a vehicle, if that vehicle is able to broadcast that information, that's of course a lot faster than any other means of detecting this unprotected crash site. Reduced visibility would be another, or exceptional weather conditions. So this has been in law in Europe for quite a while already. Nevertheless, it was not very fast to be implemented, especially by the automotive industry, because the delegated regulation left a few things unclear, and so this is the reason Data Task Force was created with the help of the European Commission, several member states, and some representatives of the automotive industry and other data and service providers got together and launched an activity, out of which, after some years, last year, safety-related traffic information ecosystem was created with a multi-party agreement called Data for Road Safety. And in this multi-party agreement, the organizational, legal, and some technical framework was set with some key principles. First of all, the idea was to exchange data on safety-related traffic information free of charge on the basis of reciprocity, for road safety, decentralized, and that the data would be able to be made available also in certain commercial settings. So that was now the basic idea that some of us worked on for quite a while. So there have been some European member states, Germany, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Spain, Finland, Austria, Denmark, Belgium, and the UK mostly. Then we have some automotives, BMW, Ford, Volvo, Daimler, and Volkswagen. And some data service providers, TomTom here, Geotab, Inrix, and Aerodynamics, to name them. Also, as I mentioned, the EU Commission was also endorsing this project. So what have we been discussing? First of all, it was quite obvious that we needed to talk about data. What is data? Because everyone on the table had different ideas on what data is. And so we came up with a definition that now is used quite heavily in the community. So we have level 1 data, which is raw sensor data that is collected in the vehicle and stays in the vehicle. So this would be out of scope from our project's perspective. But then we have level 2 data, and level 2 data would be that data that would be transmitted via the cellular network to the backends of the vehicle manufacturers, to the OEMs, which has a safety, which relates to safety or to events that might have safety-related information. So as listed here, it depends quite a lot on the type of vehicle, of the brand, and the model, and so on. So it's not a complete list or fixed list. It depends quite a bit. But you've seen here, you see here some of the data types that individual vehicles might be sending to their OEM backend, and that data would be made available to that ecosystem. So if a crash happens, or the vehicle breaks down, if well, ABS gets activated, or hydroplaning gets detected, or if the rear fog light gets turned on, and so on. All of this might be useful for further creation of L3 data. And L3 data, that would be intelligently clustered, combined, aggregated, possibly validated also with outside data to create safety-related traffic information warning messages that are suitable for to be used as warning messages for other drivers. And the L3 data needs to be in those one of those 8 categories. And that is useful to warn drivers via various services. Typical data formats are used for that. Sensors for the first, for the level 2 data mainly, DataX2 for the level 3 data. And in our ecosystem, several roles have been defined, and all the partners take up at least one of those roles. For example, an L2 data source, an aggregator, or a service creator, and so on. And depending on that role, as I said before, it's a decentralized system. Everyone can choose what role they would like to be in, and with each role, different obligations come into play, mainly, for example, to provide interfaces to data, access interfaces to data. So, and the basic idea is, as you can imagine, that vehicles deliver data to backends, and the ecosystem then, and this is the one box here. Again, this is a lot simplified a lot. Data aggregation and service creation takes place using data from various backends or various data sources from vehicle generated data to create warning messages, L3 data. That would then be able to be delivered via service providers back to the OEMs to be distributed to the vehicles, to their onboard system, or via other channels, via apps or other means, via the traffic management and traffic operators on the road, or the radio broadcasters. So there are various ways where this these created L3 data warning messages can be displayed. Yeah, I'm coming to the end already. We've had quite some success, and I guess the most crucial one would be that there is now a common agreement on legal and organizational, but also a technical framework with this multi-party agreement. On that has been quite a challenge. You can imagine quite a lot of lawyers were involved in that, but now we have that settled, and there's an estimation, as those things are not easily shared by the automotive industry, but an estimation is that more than 2.5 million vehicles are now already delivering data for hazardous situations into the data for road safety ecosystem. And that data is available, as I said, cross-brand. So all the OEMs that are part of our ecosystem deliver to that. So it's cross-brand, it's cross-border, so it's at least EU-wide. I'm not exactly sure which OEM also provides data outside of the EU, but that could be clarified in further discussions. And it comes with clearly defined terms and conditions for use and reuse. Yeah, then of course the data for safety ecosystem is open for new partners. So we are, and there are already other vehicle manufacturers that are quite interested in joining the ecosystem, because all of them, all of us are of course know that especially for these kinds of safety related events, the more sources there are, the more fleets deliver data to the system, the better information for everybody is able to be created. So there's more OEMs coming along over the next months and years. There's a tendency or there's an activity going on to put this to place this as a best practice for all Europe. So other member states are also coming up, and I think will likely join this activity in the future. And yeah, there's a onboarding path defined with this group. So with that, that's all I want to say. Of course, I'm open for any questions on that. I've listed here some co-authors of a paper that we created on that. You can also, of course, reach us via email, but I'm happy to answer any questions now or, of course, later on in the Q&A session. Thank you.
And Timo, we'll go ahead and take those questions at the end, but I know one of the questions that's coming through right now is that I understand that Germany has a new legislative framework or a framework for AV technology. And that will be one of the questions. So you can look in the chat to see that people are interested in what Germany is doing. And I think that's an important discussion for later.
Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you very much. All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Data, again, is so important to what we're going to be doing in the future. And you know, I come from an agency perspective, and one of the questions I'll have is, you know, how do we get that data into the hands of people who are making decisions on how to build and how to operate our road networks from when they're taking big sets of data? The question of big data always comes about, and use that for safety purposes. So a great presentation. Thank you, Timo Hoffman. This next presentation is automated mobility as a game changer for future road traffic, factoring in safety, ethics, sustainability, and inclusive as part of the UN agenda, UNECE WP1. Our next presenter is Luciana Iorio from UNECE, United Nations. And again, if you can introduce yourself, that would be great. So take it away, Luciana.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I hope that everyone can see me. And yes, I will introduce myself and share the screen. I hope that everyone can also see my screen. So good evening, good afternoon to everyone, according to your time zone. I am really thankful to PIARC, to Mr. Crocco and our colleagues, Leonardo Annese and all the others, for having invited me. A quick presentation. My affiliation is the Ministry of Sustainable Infrastructure and Sustainable Mobility in Italy. I'm the senior legal officer, but actually I'm giving this presentation as a chair of the Global Forum for Road Traffic Safety at the UNECE. So I am very, very grateful and honored to be in such a panel, because I have heard from the distinguished colleagues speaking before me many of the things I will be just touching upon, but I will start in this provocative way as a shake-up in the afternoon, because we need that, or we need a coffee. And just to say that, can you see the slide moving?
Right now, what we're seeing is the slide in it's not in presentation mode.
Someone is asking me, or I have to do the presentation myself, or what?
So
you tell me who is going to flick the slide.
If you could do the transition, if you could do the slides, that would be helpful.
Okay, I will try. Okay, that's fine. Can you see now? The next slide is a big clock. Yes. Okay, that's good. So the big clock, why? Because I'm going to be provocative to say that you will not like what I'm going to say. And the reason for saying that it is that, yes, the automated driving and the automated vehicles deployment, the automotive technology is on the agenda of the Global Forum for Road Traffic Safety. But the real challenge is that we have to consider that all together with the other challenges. And here's why there is this big clock here, is because we have a countdown to stay by, and it is the Agenda 2030, namely the future we want. We have here the Amina Mohamed. She's the Deputy Secretary General after Guterres, and she's reminding me and everyone else that we have 9 years left to accomplish the Sustainable Development Goals. Indeed, and then we have all these other documents. Now we, as policymakers in the road safety fields, we know very well, the speakers before me, the colleague Belin, the Professor Belin, underlined the fact that we need a systemic approach, and that indeed we need the systemic approach because we have to take into account all these documents listed here, who have been, and these documents are hitting hard on what we have to do in order to accomplish road safety goals, but also the SDG goals. So I will not name all the documents because I don't want to steal time to the speakers after me. So the Global Forum for Road Traffic Safety has a very busy agenda, and overarching from the, of course, updating the Vienna Conventions to the safe system approach and the driving permits, the distracted driving, and of course the autonomous driving and HMI, apart from all the rest. But we have also, let's say, side of the agenda dealing with the real challenges going on in the low and middle income countries, you know, and mind you, we must hear the voices of the low and middle income countries. So here it is, the big problem is not only automated mobility, not only the advantages of automotive digital technology, is that we have to stay inside the milestones set by the SDG as far as mobility is concerned. So it is not only just a commercial exercise, who is going to go faster and in a better way hit the road with automotive technology, is that we have to offer safety, sustainability, inclusiveness, and resilience. So we have to couple all these factors, and we have also to consider how the mobility and transport policies are really going to allow, to enable, to facilitate the other SDG accomplishment. So safe mobility, and if we want to consider highly technology or highly automated mobility, it has to be the enabler also to tackle famine, to tackle the issue of the gender equity, to avoid poverty, you know, to bring education where is much needed. This is what we have to think about when we think how we can cast the mobility of the future. It's not only about let's hit the road with the smartest car. We need to bring the smartest car all over the world. We need to bring with us everyone to be smart. It's not only a question of, who goes first in being smarter. So here it is. We have these two goals. We know very well. We know the targets, the 3.6 and the 11.2. So we know very well about 3.6. The distinguished speakers before me have already pointed that out. The incredible scourge of the fatalities on the road, lives and lives lost, long life-changing injuries, which are, of course, a moral cost, an ethical cost, a painful legacy, but also social cost, and hence the big problem is that road safety remain a global emergency, more in some areas of the globe, less in other, but still there is this global scourge. But there is also this problem, that low and middle income countries, with less vehicles have the highest slice of the road traffic deaths. We have to tackle that as well. So how? Indeed, we know we are in the middle of the fourth revolution and nothing will stop us. Of course, nothing can stop us anyway, even if we wanted. So we are in the middle of the fourth revolution. We are heading towards, even the singularity, but let's not go too far with the artificial intelligence. And still, at the Global Forum, we have to deal with the conventions who are dealing with and ruling the conventional traffic. So, hence the big question, will automotive technology serve safe, sustainable, inclusive mobility policies? Because we can't allow, we can't go ahead. Oh, that's cute. Children are always so cute. So the issue is that is going to do that, is really going to serve the society, the global good, or we are doing that only because it's a marketing, a commercial exercise? We can't do that for the sake of mankind, for the sake of sustainability, inclusiveness, resilience, and safety. So here it is the big problem, is what Professor Belin was saying, the different type of driving, and mind you, I don't want to dive in a very, let's say, thorny and tricky issues, let's not confuse the automated driving with the driverless car, because they are altogether something completely different. But in automated driving, here comes the point, this conditional driving, when the system is on, the driver is off, or the system is off and the driver is on, this can be really tricky. Why? Because as a policymaker, we have to be sure to ensure society a fundamental principle, which is the responsibility, the liability, the clear identification of who is doing what and when is happening. This is so, hence regulation is not only about kernels and cars and technology, it's about setting the appropriate regulatory framework. And this is why this workshop organized by PIARC is really timely appropriate. And thank you to the chairperson and thank you to the organizer. So you have here in the slides all what is necessary. We are debating at the Global Forum the ethical issue, of deploying such automated system, and what is going to be and how is going to be ruled the human-machine interaction, or even further, the artificial intelligence interaction with the traffic environment, and which principles or values are going to be embedded in the systems in order that they can cope with the traffic environment and they can protect the vulnerable road users. And then there are other issues such as the skill depletion, of the driver and the over-reliance such systems, driving systems could cause, and then the issue of the reliability. So here it is, because that's what we are talking about. The vehicle, not just as a tool, but a tool as a part of the IoT, and the IoT merging it with the artificial intelligence and delivering the augmented reality, a new traffic environment, which hence again needs to be appropriately ruled, a new traffic network, a new road network, which is, mind you, not the stretch going from A to B or the stretch going from B to C, is an all-over network with an incredible, unfathomable amount of investment. So as we said, we need to be very careful. We are very careful in what we are getting good at, very carefully planned. I heard the word strategy. That's exactly what we need. So here it is. This is one of the examples. Sustainable safety and resilient architecture is part of the UNECE roadmap and ITS roadmap. And here it is all you have. It is part of the UNECE engagement. And here you have the, as I called it, the magic spell, with of ITS architecture. So again, framing the new mobility, again, we are speaking of sustainability, and at the same time, we are speaking of what? Data, an incredible amount of data to be digested and elaborated in the new traffic. So would that be sustainable? Will the energy grid be manage all that? Which kind of sustainability are going to build for the next generation? Plus we have to serve a growing and shifting population. And at the same time, we have to think how we are going to shape through mobility, through automated mobility, the world of the future. A world which at the same time, we want to be sustainable, inclusive, equitable, and dealing with technology. And what is happening is that we have to deal with 11.2 SDG as well, which is talking about, to make a urban dwelling and very, very compliant with the human needs and so on. Here are the world's largest build-up urban areas, and is the sustainability and the urbanism as indicated by the Quito agenda, the habitat third. Here are the dwellings in these photos. I don't know if you can see them. This is Kuala Lumpur. This is, these are these dwellings in Rio de Janeiro. And then you have Delhi, and then you have Singapore, and so on. So again, technology is fine, but we have to shape it considering the sustainability as well, and the inclusiveness, and the ethics, and the equity, as well as a part of a dimensional togetherness, and this is, I think it is quite relevant. We have that also, in the policy framework at the study now, in many issues, in many fields, in many tables, and also at the global forum. So again, I am very happy to have joined the PIARC, for in this effort, and altogether maybe we should join efforts at national level, at international level. We can't go ahead alone. We can't reason in the terms of the West and the rest. It is a global, okay, I chair the global forum. So I have with me, I feel that both colleagues and me, we are the voices also of the low and middle income countries. Technology has to be a tool for everyone, so we have to stay focused on the global good. Okay, the easy road is not the easiest one. You can see that. We have to aim for the complex but right answers. But I think that we are all talented to do that. And on that, I'm very grateful for having given me the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. If there's one thing I take away from it is stay focused on the global good. Wow, what a statement. And it's something that I see from a safety perspective. Safe mobility is the future for what we need to do in a sustainable, environmental, ethically efficient system. So thank you very much for that presentation. I'm sure there's going to be some wonderful questions for you at the end. Thank you very much. And so I'll move on to our next presentation. I appreciate all the presenters are staying on time. That makes it much more effective and efficient for the moderator. So thank you very much for doing that. And Luciana, that was an exceptional presentation. So thank you very much. This next presentation is going to be talking about driving schools, new teaching modules and instruments for AVs, and Manuel PICARDI, EFA General Secretary. If you could go ahead and introduce yourself, we'd love to hear your presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Manuel PICARDI. As you already mentioned, very happy and glad to take part today of this important event. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you also for the previous speaker, Madam Chair, Mrs. Iorio, who explained very well how it's current the situation all around the world. And I had the pleasure to cooperate to try to help Madam Chair, Mrs. Iorio, in some meeting at the UNECE. And my short presentation of today would like to pose a question, just a brief questions to all the road users, especially to all the drivers, the experienced drivers. So I'm often use it to create a presentation focused on novice drivers. But I think that if we have to speak about autonomous vehicle, we have also to include in this topic the problem of the experienced drivers, so the people that already use the cars since 20-30 years and maybe has heard about the autonomous vehicles and all the others and all the devices, but at the end, are we really sure that they never ever tried before these devices or not, how they feel about this? So today we would like to present some of the things as European Federation we have worked on, and the new training modules for novice and elderly people driving. Who is EFA? EFA is the European Federation of Driving Schools. We represent currently 23 national associations of driving schools, 11 affiliate members, so it means not EU countries, and the different stakeholders involved into the training and road safety. The main aims of our associations are the standardization, so try to find the best high level quality of standards for novice drivers, for becoming driving instructors, and introduces the concept of lifelong learning training. We have EFA Academy, so as you can see in the screen, we are working on different devices as well, so to include every time new different training modules. Currently, we are taking part to this Fit to Drive project. It's a European funded project focused on the fit to drive of their heavy goods vehicles, especially in the trucks driver. So we would like to create a device useful for the police check into the road for understanding the fit to drive of the drivers. Well, the first question that I would like to pose to everybody is, do you think that do you know how new car devices work? Because this is a very old pictures that you can see everywhere, also in the presentation of the webinar, I guess. And this represents how many devices we already have, how it works. A lot of devices that we have in the car, but often the drivers, they never tried before this, they had no opportunity, or in most of the cases they prefer to maintain their skills and their concentration, avoiding to use this because it's not very familiar, and when we have to change some habits, we find some obstacles. Just a few slides on describing the main four ADAS that we can have today in the cars. In the light vehicles, and I start with the automatic emergency brake. Most of the people don't know that we have a different kind of AEB. So we have the autonomous, the emergency, or the braking. So as you can see in the picture, in the right one, there is the sign from the dashboard is telling to you that you need a brake. And definitely, I have some doubt. If I had to speak to my father, how to use all this, for instance, this, and he can switch from one mode to another one, I have some doubt about his how he feels about this, because I think he feels just a little bit nervous because it's changing his attitude. And I'm speaking about a driving instructor for more than 40 years of experience. But when you have to introduce someone who wants to help you, but maybe it was not required by you to be helped, should be complicated to manage and to handling it safely. The ACC is the adaptive cruise control. Is very popular as well in the new cars. I think that it's in a medium-sized car. You can find it, and you can see on the right side the lever to use it. So you can decide the speed, you can decide the distance, you can increase, you can reduce it, and all these things. I think that the people can manage it and use it when the car is stopped, but not all people will be able to regulate this footage on driving, especially if they are traveling fast. The other new areas is the intelligent speed adaptation. So as you know, the ISA is one of the probably will be one of the best system that we can introduce at the European level when the framework will help us to use it, and is the automatic adaptation on the speed limits into the roads. As you can see on the right side, most of the car, they have the different system, the different mode to use it. And as mentioned before, I have some doubt that all the people will be able to understand it, to switch from one to the other always, especially due to the state of attention of the drivers. And please remember that especially in the big areas, in the big cities, most of the people is using the car just because they have to use the car, not for passion, not for traveling in holidays, or so they are already stressed by the rest of the things or the jobs or the tasks that they have to complete. And sometimes this, especially at the first time, when they are not completed the process of learning of how to use this, probably people prefer to not use this because it means more work to do, more things to manage, and probably leave me less stressed by these devices. The lane departure warning systems, I know about people who was scared about this because suddenly the steering wheel started to vibrate, and the people move with force to the right or to the left side when the car is traveling fast. And the idea to lose the control you are used to have of the car at the first time, it doesn't feel very good, this situation, because you think that someone is driving on behalf of you. And so this is one of the most, I think, risky situation the driver could find traveling. I would like just to focus a few slides on probably the main issues of ADAS that we can have when the ADAS will be very, very popular everywhere. The increased complexity of traffic. We have seen before in the previous speaker that she shown some of the big metropolis around the world. Spoken about Delhi, Jakarta, everywhere. But these are pictures came from Europe, or the cities of Europe. Someone can recognize Rome, downtown, Paris, Madrid, Milano, German. And this is the real situation during the traffic jam when the people go back from work, and this is the scenario. And I put this picture on the left bottom with the traffic in Paris, for instance, with the problem of trottinette, so the e-scooters, because you have also to consider that in the West, in the European countries, we are used to have just 5 different kinds of road users. We have pedestrian. We should know how to anticipate them. We have a cyclist. We have power two-wheelers. We have light vehicles, so as a car, and we have the heavy vehicles. But the users, they are not used to understand and to think about the reaction and to anticipate the behavior of the e-scooters drivers. Sometimes these are not very disciplined, so they think so that they interpret the highway code. We can say that this is a new thing that is not very easy for anticipating their behaviors. We have the system failures. We already have registered some cases where the ADAS, especially after an accident, were not well fixed on the cars. And we have spoken about the glass repairers, and they say that after an accident, when you break the widescreen, it's become really complicated to handle and how to substitute the widescreen, because on the back of the screen there is the cameras and all the lidar and the radar, and if you make an error on the inclination of this screen, it will change the things, and you can understand, the cameras and the radar can understand different things, different risks that at the end didn't exist. If you see in the picture, this is a real picture offered to myself. This is a scenario of Brussels. If you see the pictures, we are in the urban area, and the dashboard of the car indicates that the maximum speed limit is 100. It's not true. The speed limit in this urban area, we are in Brussels here, is 50. But what it happens, that the car was following a track, and the track on the back had the speed limit stickers, and the car interpreted this as the speed limits to maintain, to reach the maximum. So you can understand, this is a real picture. My friend is very happy that I shared this during the presentation. Another thing that we have to consider about the spread of the ADAS is the cheap spares of cars that we can find on internet. You can find a lot of offers about the devices that you can find on the market. And I guess that a lot of people would like to save money. This is not bad habit, but if we are speaking about safety, you can't spend less than $20 for buying some cameras, thinking to have a new technology car, very well equipped, in grade of reduce all the risk and alert you. And then the other problem, the other issue that is rising through the world, so at global level, as Madam Chair Iorio described it in her presentation, is the alertness and the attention of the drivers. Because at the global level, the institutions are speaking about which kind of activity will be able to do the driver or the passenger drivers, so the people sitting on the place of the driver. But when we are traveling on an autonomous way, which kind of activities will be allowed? And this is the problem, because I guess that a lot of people is really confused due to the or whatever. The people thinks to be able to do whatever he wants. He can read, he can sleep. These are also real pictures on the right side. Some accident probably you have seen on newspapers or on TV. This is in China. some people have photographed by someone else in the traffic. They were sleeping during the traveling. And as mentioned before as well, one of the biggest challenge will be to convince the people to give the steering wheels, the control of the car to someone they didn't know before. So the artificial intelligence of the car. So we, with our huge experience as trainers and master trainers, it seems strange, but we always found the best driving instructor, the best driver, the best taxi driver, the best riders. Everybody seems it's the best. And on driving or riding the vehicle they are moving. And this is I think it's a very huge challenge that we have to manage in the next years, because this is the confidence of the people to leave someone to the power of the steering wheel. And maybe one of the proposals that we were suggesting is to reconsider, to requalify the human being. Maybe we can try to invest some money more, investing on the human being. We can try not to re-educate, but to give them further education, further training. And this should help us to challenge all the things that we are in face. So my question to everybody is, do you ever heard about the ratio 320 versus 1? This is it's very interesting ratio that is regarding the money spent by the driver in their life as driver, into the training and into the automotive sector. If you see, is the list of the money that a common driver has spent or spent in his life, I mean as a driver, we consider from 20 to 80, so 60 years of driving, we estimated that the users, they spend quite 100,000 euros for changing the car every 10 years, every 15 years, but now due to the price of the cars, is not very, it's probably slow, this estimation. How many money spend a driver for insurance the car? In 50 years, in 60 years, we estimate 50,000 euros. How many money will be spent in the fees, ticketing, parking, or whatever is related to the car maintenance, the road accidents, the fuel, and the total? We estimate 15,000 kilometers per year, and you easily arrive at 320,000 euros. And the question is, how much money did you spend for the most important element, factor of the road safety in the human being? Probably you spent 1,000 euros once in your life, and when you were 18 years old. And definitely, probably it's coming the time to update your skills and your knowledge. This is a matrix that we prepared, and is a new concept of training that we introduced at the global level, is the training matrix. So a new concept of how we would like to manage the training. And as you can see in the last row, in the bottom row, we already considered that it will be necessary to introduce the safe use of the ADAS for the novice drivers as well. Because today there is not a European directive who help us to understand which kind of car we have to use for training and for the examinations. We have to buy a level 0 of the SI scale, or level 3, level 2. We don't know how should the drivers will be examined. We don't know yet. And the other things is consider to make, just at the end, consider to organize some extraordinary training for expert drivers. With the aging of the population, this is a very big problem that we are suffering in Europe, but not only there, that the people, as I mentioned before, my parents or someone else, is in this complex society, this will be very hard for them to understand how to handle this kind of technology. So as ever, technology is not a problem. The problem is how should be used. As usual, the situation becomes dangerous without a prompt use of it. A lot of people is trying to rethink traffic safety. Just a few people is thinking on how to educate the road users. Technology will help the road users. It won't replace them. I'm sorry, but we still need thinking drivers and thinking road users. Thank you for your attention. I stop myself. No, there is someone?
Sometimes it's difficult for me to find a little button to turn my screen back on. So thank you very much. A very interesting presentation. So what I'd like to do now is I'm seeing questions coming in. So I'll start asking questions and we'll have a little bit of a debate. I'm going to do my best to call on who I believe is the right person, but I'd ask all the presenters if they have something to add to the discussion, please jump in at any time. And I guess one of the first questions, and this I would like to direct towards Matts and let me see if I can bring this over on my screen. Matts and you, Manuel, when we think of the safe user principle within the safe system policy, what is the message that we need to present to road users about connected and automated vehicles as we transition the fleet? What is it that we need them to understand? So Manuel, since you just presented and your topic was about education, could you go ahead and take that question? And then Matts, I'll ask you the same thing.
We have to find a way, the right way to find an easy and cheap solution for the drivers to become aware about the risk of not proper use of these ADAS. So I always mention the elderly people, but not so elderly, that if they never try to use a car with this kind of ADAS, they should do it in a wrong way or suddenly, not with voluntary, with intention, and they have to understand the reaction of the vehicle, of the car, and how to stop it suddenly. And we as trainers, we have done also some eco-driving training. We are called to use this to understand how it works, this hybrid, alpha hybrid, or electrical vehicles. And this is a very good vehicles. We think that this should be the future, but at the end, we think that just a little part of the users will be able to use properly these vehicles. At the end, as mentioned by Madam Chair, the people when driving is just moving the vehicle from point A to the B. This is the reality. For our experience, is people is just focused on this, use the vehicle as a tool. And this should be a problem. If you want to really save the money, so you want to buy this or use the things, but you don't know how to do it, it becomes complicated to take advantage from this. We think that we can find an agreement, find a solution involving the car manufacturers, maybe. Then when you buy a new car, you have to foresee a short session of training to understand how to handle safely this kind of ADAS, this kind of devices. Considering that if you don't take practice, you forget it, as ever, all the things.
Thank you. And Matts, could you give us your thoughts on the question?
Yeah, based on my initial presentation, I agree. Sometimes we see it very complex, this thing with this new technology, but is there anything take away from today? I think that we have to realize, because we don't see, I think, I don't know if you say that in English, but you don't see the forest for all the trees. It becomes very complicated, everything. But is there one thing that I would like to see and much more focus on is the speed. Just like Manuel mentioned, how this intelligent speed adaptation and that sort of system. Because in the end, it's the kinetic energy that kills people. So we have to, when we start to launch this kind of technology now, we have to have a better control of the speed now in different areas and so on. So that's my most important message here is the speed, and make sure that we have control over that, because that will also be able to, if something goes wrong, it will make sure that we can handle the consequences in a different perspective. But I can't see this. So if I want something, is more data on speed, more data in speed in urban area where you have unprotected road users, more technology to support you to have a appropriate speed according to the situation. So that kind of technology I would like to see much more. And then the second thing is that we have to see that although we're talking about these components, we're talking about the drivers, or we're talking about the vehicles, but we have to put that in a kind of environment context. And we have to realize that the urban planners and the road constructor, those who design the roads, have a great role in this now to take advantages of these technologies. So you have to have this system perspective on things.
Thank you very much. One of the questions that came in that, if I could add to it, was a question about lower and middle income countries, the incorporation of CAV into some of the lower and middle income countries. But I would add to that, what about lower income road users? How do we ensure an equitable system for those who may not be able to afford the new technology, or who may be affected differently based on their financial situation, their culture, whatever it may be? And I'd like to maybe ask you, Luciana, to take a first attempt at that question and give us your thoughts.
Oh, sorry. Just I missed the last words. Sorry, because I had an audio issue. Could you just
Yeah, the question about equity. So, we often think of connected and automated vehicles accessibility.
Yeah, indeed. This is one of the most crucial issues we wanted to address when we consider the traffic environment. It is not only because it is dealt already within the conventions, but it is also because it's a part of the SDG. In fact, when we have been holding a special workshop just back to back with the Stockholm conference in the February 2020, just before the pandemic unfolded, we had a workshop on automated driving, and it was organized by the Russian Federation and the WP1. And we had speakers from the World Blind Association, speakers from the vulnerable road users. And the issue is that we do not have only to create inclusiveness, which means, just to give everyone the possibility to access the transport mode, or to be part of the mobility, but to create favorable conditions for those who are unprivileged. So it is a double effort, and we really, I am sure that technology will give us unfathomable perspectives. I mean, it will be true. And I believe in that, because we can't step back. We can't duck out of the fourth revolution. You know that. But the issue is that we need to rule it. We don't have to just, we don't have to become a part of the technology. We have to rule the technology. And this is why, I mean, we are really not hasty and try to address all that. Not an easy task. I'm not saying it easy, but I'm saying that if we work together, we will manage to deliver a better world. I mean, I think we are working for legacy. We are experts. We are working for the next generations. And so this is our legacy. I hope I answered the question. I don't want to steal time.
Oh, no, you're not stealing time, and very well answered. So thank you very much. Would anybody else like to take an attempt at that question? So with that, Timo, I have a question for you. Big data. Data is going to be a major issue. I actually have two questions for you, but in terms of equity and information being processed vehicle to vehicle, it may be vehicle to the pedestrian, the other road users. Have you had discussions on how that's going to occur, the translation of data into information to other road users, or maybe the car next to me? I'm venturing out of my lane. How's that car next to me going to get that information? Any discussions on that?
Yes, I think there are discussions on that, although I've been not that much involved in these. So basically, there are two worlds that live in parallel a little bit. That short-range communication field where cars or vehicles talk to vehicles, or the infrastructure around it in the near distance, and there's the back-end communication approach. And I, in my presentation and with the project I've been in, we took that back-end approach because we think nowadays that connectivity is much more available already, because a lot of the vehicles do include already a SIM card and have cellular connectivity, whereas the near field communication or the close communication is dependent on other technology that has only a small market share, so to say. But at the end, we of course coordinate ourselves, and I think the same messages will be sent out in both ways. And at the end, as I tried to make clear, the more people or the more organizations, the more domains chip in with this sort of information, the better it is at the end. In the long term, it is, as you said, big data. It's a lot of data. There's going to be some work needed, artificial intelligence or other methodologies to really make sure that to make sense out of all this information, and to make sure that the message gets out in an appropriate way, in a good quality.
And Timo, I one thing that I've heard is that you're working on a German regulatory framework. Could you briefly touch upon that? What's happening? Any lessons learned that you might provide to us?
Well, unfortunately, I'm neither working for the ministry itself, nor am I to have a legal background. So I'm not gonna dive too much into that. There's there has been new legislation in Germany. I think it's an ever evolving thing, both in Germany and in many other countries. I think everyone's trying to keep up with technology and the developments, and I guess it's a challenge to do that, frankly.
Well, thank you very much. I would like to ask of all the presenters, if you were to offer a single point for consideration to the individuals who are out on this workshop, what would it be that you would say to them to think about in terms of connected and automated vehicles? So is there something that you want to have them think as they're going through their deliberations? How would you go about that? So Matts, I'll start with you and then I'll go through the presenters.
Yeah, thank you, John. Well, there's a couple of things, I think. First of all, I think that we have to aware that the human is very capable. Our capability to handle complex situation is awesome, I would say. So don't think that you take them out of the loop will solve the problem. That's not the situation, because we are very capable. So don't think get that wrong. I think that's why and each individual can drive a couple of times around the globe without being in part of an accident, for example. It's because we are all time interact with different drivers and different road users, and we compensate for each other's problem, and that is what some people now try to change to a machine instead, and that will be very complicated, I will say. So that's one thing. The second thing I would like to is what I'm trying to emphasize all the time now. Is there anything that we would like to use this technology, is to control for this harmful energy? And that is also one thing for the low and middle income countries also, I think, because we don't have to wait for all these new cars. There are already technology that we can install in secondhand cars. For example, in Sweden already in 1999, we had a full-scale demonstration project with this intelligent speed adaptation system that we retrofit that kind of technology into it. That will be the right technology to support something that is very important from the road safety perspective. And the third one is, as Luciana said, that we have to have this more system perspective, and we have to compensate for if we start to deliver new technology, for example, in low and middle income countries, maybe we have to compensate that because people will not afford this technology and so on. So we can't. We have to compensate with the environment and make sure that we have an environment for everyone. So that's a few things.
Manuel?
Yes, but definitely from my point of view, as summarizing for some of the things that interesting things that I heard before, definitely as I presented in my presentation, that I believe in the human being. So I believe in the competence of the human being, and the only one, not only no, but the biggest risk that we are faced is the people starting a process of decompetence. If we delegate too much to the artificial intelligence, human being is lazy by nature, probably. And I just pose you a provocative question. Now that you have the smartphone, how many telephone number do you remember today about the contacts that you have? So when you were 18, 20 years old, probably you remember a lot of numbers, but today it's not required to you. You don't have to make this force to remember and to think about the things. And this is the problem that we think should be come with the too much delegation. Is it the decompetence of the drivers? And if you are required to reuse the car and intervene suddenly or restart, for us maybe it's easier because we collect knowledge and experience from 20 years of driving. But for new drivers, it's not so easy because they haven't gained these skills. And this is one of the things that I say always, we have to think about this and to understand how we can manage in the next future.
All right, thank you, Luciana.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, very briefly, and just hooking on what it has just been said by the distinguished colleagues, the very issue is that, and what we are dealing with now at the Global Forum is what is called the intermediate time, the conditional driving. You know, I would say that is really a treacherous ground. If you had attended my meetings, you would have heard me saying this over and over and over. Can you hear me? Yes, I hope
yes.
So. Yeah. So me saying that over and over. I mean, not that the driver at the steering wheel is perfect, you know, and maybe the driverless cars will also have some hiccups, you know, that's fine. But the human driver and the technology together, on and off, you know, that is really a quagmire. You know, it's really going to be a quicksand, you know, a very treacherous ground. And this is why it is just so difficult. You know, I know that my colleague engineers will cut my head off because they don't like me saying that, you know, and I fully understand because, you know, it works. It works so perfectly in the lab. It is true. It works so perfectly on the trial track, and that's true. But when it will be blended in the traditional traffic, you know, every day, the over-reliance which could be generated in the new drivers, as Manuel, Mr. PICARDI was saying, you know, when you give them the overconfidence that the system can do everything and you can just be so lazy, you know, and sit back and read the papers and what not to do in the car, you know, then it will be difficult because the idea of having a driver, the attention on and off the road, the eyes on and off the road, you know, it is really, really difficult. I mean, I am not convinced, and this is why we are discussing. Sorry, I know that this is really a hot topic for me, and the colleagues know, and there are still discussions going on. Sorry for that. Thank you, Chair Milton, Chairperson.
Thank you. And I'm going a little bit long, so Manuel, just very briefly, if you could. Manuel,
hello.
If you could offer, yes.
May I say something? I'm not a panelist today. I will be a panelist tomorrow. I'm Mr. Krishi. May I?
Go ahead then.
Sorry,
quickly,
yes, of course. Just to say that I couldn't agree more with Luciana Iorio, because this is what we are working for. We are working for to have, at the end of the day, a world in which we will fly with these cars without thinking about driving. And so men should not be useful to anything. Just to take the example, how many numbers did we remember and we do not remember now? Was it useful? It is more useful to read a newspaper or to do something else, probably. This is a question we will talk about tomorrow in the ethic of consequences. Sorry.
Thank you, and just wanted to make sure, Manuel, I sometimes forget if I'd already asked you the question. What one key topic point would you offer to the listeners here or the people watching the workshop to take away? Just any thought that you have? Yes, Manuel.
No, I don't have anything else to add. I spoke before saying that this is posing a provocative question regarding how many telephone number do you still remember today, or over skills that if you delegate someone else to do the things. Yeah, so I fully agree with Luciana. No, it's okay.
I'm sorry, I went back. Timo, it was you who I haven't asked the question of.
Yeah, no worries. Just very briefly, I think the key here is cooperation. I think what we've seen in the connectivity field is that, and the safety, vehicle-generated safety-related data, that individual manufacturers try to do their own thing, and I think we are now starting to cooperate more broadly across brands, across countries, across. I think that's the way to go forward in this to tackle the very demanding topic of road safety.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to all the participants and the panelists today. Great presentations, very well put together. It was very helpful overall. You know, the main takeaway that I'm taking from this is that there's still a driver, and those drivers are capable. We need to think about that, particularly in terms of the transition period between full autonomy and those type of things. We need to make sure that we maintain that knowledge and transfer that knowledge from one road user to the other. The data is going to play a big part in what we're doing and how we're doing it in terms of the information that's provided to all. And don't forget about equity, sustainability, that what we're doing in terms of safety, connected automated vehicles, we need to think about the bigger picture, the more holistic picture, and where we can to provide this sort of information and data to really create the safe system to manage speeds, to manage energy at crashes. So with that, I would like to thank everybody. I went a little bit long. My apologies to those of you who are participating. We'll take a 10-minute break right now. We'll come back at 7 a.m. my time. So that would be 1600. I think that's about right. Yes, 1600. So thank you very much. Go ahead, stretch your legs and be back. We'll start promptly at 1600. All right, so James, you'll be next, the US, and James will be presenting on US FHWA efforts to advance CAV, ADS, and James Pohl is the Technical Director of Safety R&D Program. And James, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Certainly, and while I multitask a little bit and get my presentation teed up. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, depending on where in the world you happen to be. Again, my name is James Pohl. I'm the Technical Director for the Office of Safety Research and Development with the Federal Highway Administration. Pre-pandemic times, my daily office routine was to work at the Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center, to which I'm still attached. But of course, like many of us, I continue to be working from home and working with my colleagues, both within the agency and also with partner agencies like John Milton over at the Washington State Department of Transportation and throughout the United States. One thing as part of context setting that I would like to remind all of the members that are participating in this workshop today is that the Federal Highway Administration does not own the roadways in the United States. It does not own the interstates. It does not own the national highway system. These assets, however, are owned by the partner agencies with which we work, such as Washington State Department of Transportation, as well as local partner agencies, which may be cities, counties, and various entities across the entire United States. So please keep that in mind as I discuss a little bit further on this presentation this morning. So I'll be talking about a couple of different things. For Leonardo, I sent a copy of my presentation, which is a lot longer. I hid several slides, so not everything that you have received and downloaded is going to be displayed right now. But for those of you who are attending and who will later be receiving a PDF, there are going to be several more slides that provide a little bit more detail and background into some of the material that I'll be discussing this morning. So going a little bit more into context setting, like many other nations, we are addressing the congestion challenge and it's something that has affected and pervaded pretty much every aspect of daily life. I think Manuel in his presentation showed several illustrations of what congestion looks like. And certainly we are not immune to that here in the United States. I do want to point out the line graph over here, where yes, in the pandemic stage of 2020, we did have a marked drop in daily congestion experience. However, as you notice, as we go further on into the timeline beyond the biggest peak of the pandemic, which occurred in the spring of 2020, where there was a gradual increase in congestion levels, and we're noticing and continuing to record increasing congestion levels month by month across the United States. Also, you know, as part of the current reality is the challenge of the lives lost and the massive human toll that is taken by roadway crashes, and really the high priority that the Federal Highway Administration has set for itself in terms of being able to address the safety challenge in an effective manner. And technology really is one among several items in the arsenal for being able to combat the challenge, the gross challenge of safety throughout the United States. And among those, and many of you are already familiar with vehicle to everything communications, but I want to set a little bit of background because it does help with discussing some of the elements further on in this presentation. So in terms of, you know, what is vehicle to everything communications? And basically it is the agglomeration or how everything communicates with one another, how vehicles communicate to other vehicles, how vehicles communicate with the infrastructure, how infrastructure communicates with vehicles, as well as portable devices that could be held by those who are pedestrians, bicyclists, who are users of micromobility services like scooters. And these are assets and new modes of transportation that are being experienced pretty much everywhere simultaneously. And we're working with being able to address the challenge of how to actually bring everybody into the ecosystem of devices communicating with other devices. So that way we have an understanding of where spatially all of the vehicles are with respect to one another and where the vehicles are with respect to the infrastructure itself. And I'm throwing in vulnerable road users like pedestrians as in the word vehicles. Basically, everybody is providing information about where they are. So this is the broad concept that we're leaning in on here. And there are a number of applications that we have been working on within the United States Department of Transportation for well over 20 years. And certainly I was fortunate to be a participant in the development of some of these applications very early on. And so the basic premise is that vehicles are communicating with other vehicles at a rate of 10 times per second. So that is a lot of information that is just simply being produced on the presence of a vehicle at different points in space and time. And then with V2Y or vehicle to infrastructure communications, what can we actually deliver that is meaningful in context? And that's the important phrase there, for work zones, for areas where there may be weather challenges, for locations that are sensitive to other factors such as change in curvature. So those are elements there that really need attention and consideration. And we've been working continuously with our partners and with our stakeholder agencies throughout the United States in order to be able to address that. Where the reason why I'm bringing up all this background on vehicle to everything and driving automation is because the United States Department of Transportation is promoting the concept of a coordinated driving automation. In other words, that the vehicle to everything communication in tandem with vehicle automation greatly increases the effectiveness of what automation alone can deliver. And so the idea there is, again, to be able to rely on a wide range of wireless communications in order for vehicles that are automated and not automated to be able to inform one another about their presence, whether or not they are automated vehicles, as well as being able to provide useful in-context information. And that is a very, very tall challenge. And this is a challenge that is not being focused on in just a handful of cities. And I'm not going to elaborate too much on this, other than to say what you see in yellow are operational projects that exist and have been deployed now. What is in green are projects that are in the planning process and that will be deployed. So this is not a challenge in which solutions are being developed in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Miami. It's throughout the entire country. There really is not one single state that is not doing anything in the space of vehicle to everything communications, and also with an eye towards vehicle automation. There is an awareness among the broad transportation community within the United States that vehicle automation is going to be happening. And how do we actually work towards addressing that? How do we, at federal highways, work at helping the stakeholder agencies develop reasonable approaches, determinations that vehicle automation is safe for the deployment, and also what is it that individual states would need to do in order to go ahead and be ready for vehicle automation. Oops. So where we are right now is we're very actively pursuing a cooperative automation research program. And there are a number of broad gains that we understand that we could be able to achieve, such as reducing fuel consumptions at intersections, being able to vastly increase the capacity of existing infrastructure, because we know that we're not going to be able to build our way out of the congestion challenge that we currently face. And then also just being able to realize fuel savings through more efficient operations, especially with trucks. And and one thing that's often not considered in considering the vastness of America is we've got, or rather, it should be noted that 12 billion tons, billion with a B, 12 billion tons of freight were moved by trucks in the United States in 2019. That represents about 75% of all the freight movement in the United States are carried by trucks. So efficiencies that we can be able to generate in terms of the movement of all the goods, everything that we use and consume in the United States, clothing, computers, food, everything is moved by a truck at one point or another. So being able to establish greater fuel efficiencies is something that's going to help in the broader economy. And that's one of the broad considerations that we have over here. So in terms of cooperative driving assistance, the challenge is being able, or the approach, that the broad consideration is, how do we bring together the technologies for vehicle to everything with vehicle automation? And with vehicle automation, and some of the presentations to this point have kind of brought some of these considerations. There's the vehicles that are sensing the world around them. But what about the extrasensory perception, if you will, of those vehicles? How do we have vehicles that are able to see beyond things that they can't see? If something is blocking their view, how do they know about the presence? And so this is where reliance on the infrastructure, the vehicle to everything, helps in terms of being able to identify and detect the threats that an automated vehicle may encounter, and be able to communicate that in a way that otherwise the vehicle wouldn't be able to see. So there's a broad and active research program that's underway to be able to address this. In federal highways, we are working with our partners within U.S. Department of Transportation on something called CARMA. And ultimately what this is that we're working to apply open source tools based on AutoWare largely to be able to come up with cooperative automation solutions and applications that can be deployment ready, as well as help inform us and also the infrastructure owners and operators, organizations like Washington State DOT, to be able to get ready for these vehicles as they start entering the market. And so we have a broad set of vehicles that we are using for our research testing. We are working with different partners in different locations around the United States in order to be able to test some of these technologies. But yes, we do have trucks. We do have sport utility vehicles, or SUVs, as you see in the lower right hand. On the upper left, that small picture of what looks like a rather cute robot is actually a prototype for something called CARMA 1/10. And so what this is an opportunity for being able to put these open source tools in a very, very small vehicle, and also one that is a much, much lower cost of entry for participants. So the aim of this is to be able to bring in academia, students from universities as well as high schools, and especially for those communities that have been disadvantaged over time. So being able to introduce these kinds of technologies to a new generation of engineers, computer scientists, and vastly promote what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, consciousness, to a much wider audience throughout the United States. And this is an exciting opportunity, and more about CARMA 1/10 is going to be made available over the next couple of years. But I do want to talk about one of our particular projects, because I mentioned before about how much freight movement happens in the United States, and this is a big consideration that we have. So one thing I want to show here, this is a demonstration that you see on video of what is called level 1 truck platooning. So this is really longitudinal control that vehicles are able to maintain equal space by communicating with one another. And this is with, just among everyday traffic. We did not seal off the interstate. This is on Interstate 66 in Virginia, roughly 40 kilometers to the west of Washington, D.C. And so the idea here was to be able to demonstrate these kinds of technologies with trucks, implemented on trucks. And so we have started a truck platooning early deployment assessment. And the idea here is to be able to understand how truck platooning works in real world environments. So what you saw in the video before was a little demonstration. This is actually going to be far more elaborate. And the idea here is to understand, working with several states now, and how truck platooning would actually function, and what is it that we need to learn and understand about the operations of truck platoons for these different states. And so this is actually one of my last slides. One thing I'll note here is that this is not simply going to be in some of the open space that you see in the heartland of America. This is actually going from the Dallas-Fort Worth area on a 1,400-mile route. This is roughly 2,700 kilometers, and running across some of the largest metropolitan areas of the United States throughout the Southwest, terminating at the busiest port in America. So this is a fascinating field operational test that we're pursuing over here. and we're excited about doing this. The idea right now is that we should be ready to launch the field operational test sometime in mid-2022, and we're working towards being able to accomplish the experimental design for that. And so lastly, that's the end of my slide, but you'll have access to this through the PDF that ultimately is released. There's links for projects information that we have. We keep a project research database available. And I just want to thank you.
Mandala effect is only relevant to one particular year or something.
Okay, John. John.
Again, James, I'm so bad with this technology stuff. I never can find the buttons, or they don't show up or something.
I'm glad it's not just me.
It's not. It's certainly me. So I wanted to thank you, James, and we'll be moving on to our next presenter. And the next presentation is the Spanish DGT 3.0 case study, and that's Miss Ana Luz Jimenez Ortega, Traffic General Directorate of Spain. Miss Jimenez Ortega.
Hello, good evening. I'm trying to share the screen. Excuse me. Sorry. One moment, please. Okay. One moment, please. Sorry.
Ana Luz, Miguel is speaking. Do you want me to put your presentation on the screen and you tell
yes,
me next
please.
slide?
Yes, please. I have a problem with my presentation. Yes, please.
No problem.
Miguel.
Yes. Here it comes. You should see it in a second. Can you see it already on the screen?
I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
Not yet.
Yep, it's in.
Yep.
So the floor is yours.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to present our platform, DGT 3.0. Is developed by the Ministry of Interior in Spain. Next slide, please. What is DGT 3.1? Yes, is the Internet of Things platform developed by Dirección General de Tráfico in the public cloud with scalability, availability, security, and portability capabilities, which allows interconnection between all the actors that are part of the traffic and mobility ecosystem, such as car manufacturers and signaling devices, public transport platform, city councils, insurance companies, and application providers relate to safe and smart mobility and different road users. Why have we developed this platform? We want to achieve the goal of zero deaths, zero injury, no congestion, and no emission through the use of the technology. We are offering information that allows the creation of a digital ecosystem and in a very efficient way. We want to improve urban and interurban areas and avoid city congestion and pollution levels. Next slide, please. Which are the features and the benefits of this platform? First of all, the integration of the different actors. The second, the need or the fact that the standardization of data models and protocols is needed. So we have to go through this standardization. And we are using open source software with low latency. We are participating in international initiatives to learn what is going out. We are very concerned about cybersecurity and information reliability. And what we are achieving is a mobility information hub, in fact. Next, please. This is the scheme, with the principal items we are going to develop in the following slides. But we are focusing on items that have a high impact on road safety and congestion. So we use hazard signaling in the road works that are very important for us to maintain the safety of users and workers, incidents, and about what are developed in variable meson science and so on. So next, please. How have we started? You know, in Europe, we have the concept of the national access point, which is the hub where all the information essential for safety, for road safety, is included due to a commitment of European Union rules. So each country has to develop what is called the national access point, where information related to safety has to be to the public in a free way, to be used in for other users. So the national access point was the starting point, and DGT 3.0 is the evolve of this national access point. So this platform is available to share incidents detected by my organization, own sources, or by certified external services. This is a list of different types of information registered in our national access point in 2020. So it's very high numbers of alerts and reported events in 2020, which was a different year due to the COVID. Next, please. Which actors are included in this platform? We are working with vehicle manufacturers, with car manufacturers, as you can see in the slide, which provide us some data in our pilot projects that are developed in different areas of Spain. So we are using this data for road safety that came from the vehicle sensors. So these are the categories in our national access point, and the sensor information from vehicle. This is the information that we are receiving from these vehicles that are participating in these pilots. Next, please. These are some of the items we are working. The first of all, V16 is the hazard signaling that is compulsory to be used in each car in Spain. If you have a problem, an incident, and your car stops in the road, you have to put this signal to prevent the other users of the road from the obstacle that your vehicle has become due to the unexpected stop. We have evolved from a physical sign to another physical and digital sign called B16 that This is this device incorporates a geolocalization system that allows the user to activate it and alert the rest of drivers through our platform. We are testing now this device, and it will be compulsory in Spain in 2026. We have a transition period, but it is going to, the pilot is going well. It will be full extended in Spain in this year. The second item we are working in is the special vehicles, like fire vehicles or so, used another signal lighting V2 that is going to be connected to this platform. So we will have the information of this vehicle working in the road. The third item we are working to make safer road works is the road maintenance workers are being equipped with an intelligent road cones that when the road work starts, the cone is active, sends the information to our platform, and then we can spread this information to the users that are near this area to prevent, to make them go slower and protect road workers while they are in the road. Another item we are working is the real-time tow truck location information. The fleet is a fleet management application that informs our platform where are they working. This has been published in the national law, so they are working, and we are receiving now the information when they are walking in the road. This is an information about the obstacle is in the road, and this is considered as an essential information for road safety that must be spread to the other users, because it can have an impact, a direct impact in the road safety. And another thing we are working in Spain, we are very concerned about peatons, cyclists, and motorcyclists, because we are experience a high fatality rate of accidents, and we are working with these vulnerable users to be to spread their position and their transit and public to the platform to protect them through helmets or applications to inform other users that a vulnerable user is near them, so they have to apply to drive carefully. Next, please. This is how tow trucks location information is being received nowadays. We have a new location each 100 seconds, and we have 3 stages: the activation of the tow truck, the operation of the tow truck, and the end of service. So the road is now clean of this obstacle, this tow truck walking with the vehicle that has been that has an accident or is broken down. Next, please. And this the last items I have explained are related to interurban areas, but we know that this platform has a very high potential to help urban areas to improve their mobility. So The low emission zone is a regulation that has to be included for in next years to prevent from pollution. The information about this low emission zone is being incorporated to this platform. The type of regulation is in this area, the time validity, the location. So it can be accessible for all users that have to go through this urban area, so they can have the information there. The parking capacity data is going to be incorporated to this platform, so we are going to avoid these trips looking for a parking place. So the information is going to be provided to all users in a easy way. And of course, in urban areas, it's very important the loading and unloading zones, because it's essential to the development of goods. So the identification and even the level of occupancy of these loading and unloading zones is going to be a very important information to manage in a proper way, in an efficient way, this public space. And we are working with urban areas for the real-time traffic light information, especially for emergency vehicles. They should know how, if they had a green light, to go to a place when they need to go fast, because it's an emergency trip. And in urban areas, we are working too in incidents and restrictions about sporting events, roadworks, perimeter becoming, or something like this that may have a real impact in road safety and traffic congestion. Next, please. And this the last one. We are really excited about the possibilities that this platform is giving us in rural, inter-urban and urban areas. And we are including more services as it is developing, but we think is going to help us in road safety matters in a very important way, and in congestion matter and pollution matters. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jimenez. A very good presentation, and I think you're on in one other presenter, and then you're back on for a discussion. So thank you for doing that. That's very helpful for us. So the next presentation that I'd like to bring forward is autonomous driving testing on open roads. Alberto Broggi, General Manager of VisLab. Alberto?
Oh, yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. So let me start by sharing my slides. Okay. So I trust you can see my slides in presentation mode. I hope so. Okay, so I already mentioned my name is Alberto Broggi. I am actually managing the Italian branch of Umbrella, which is a US-based company. And we do have a lot of experience in the autonomous driving on roads. And today I would like to share this experience with you and share some important aspects of testing on open roads. So I prepared my presentation in three parts. The first one would be just to tell you who we are and why we are doing this, because it will be an industrial presentation. And the industry that I'm representing is kind of different from one can think. So we're not a car maker, we're not a tier one company, so we're different. I will tell you in the first part of my presentation. And then I would like to mention what road testing really means for us, and some ideas that actually road testing does not only mean driving on the road. So that's one part, of course, but there's much more than just driving. And finally, we'll again share our experience over these few years. So let me start with the, again, I mentioned that we have a long history about autonomous driving, because actually we have been active in autonomous driving for more than 20, almost 25 years now. We started as a research group at the University of Parma, Italy, and we're talking about the 90s. Then in the next few years, we launched a spin-off company, a spin-off of the University of Parma. And then after a few years of projects that were kind of interesting and successful, this spin-off was acquired by Ambarella. So Ambarella is a silicon company based in Silicon Valley. Ambarella is actually was designing and selling chips. Okay, so VisLab was a computer vision startup and was acquired by a company that was actually selling chips. And the reason for that is that the goal, the final idea, was to put together our own experience in autonomous driving and computer vision for autonomous driving and put that into the chip. So design and sell chips for autonomous driving. So a couple of numbers just to give you an idea about the size. So Ambarella is about 850 people. And by the way, yesterday, we just announced that we just acquired the new radar company. So we're a little more than that. So we're listed on NASDAQ and we're about 6.5 billion of market cap. While VisLab is still an Italian company based here in Parma, we're about 60 engineers, all working for Ambarella as a research center. So I just mentioned about VisLab. I'll talk just a little bit about Ambarella. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we are not a car maker, so we do not sell cars. We're not a tier one, so we don't sell to car makers. We don't have autonomous taxis, so we're not a mobility provider. We're not a road manager. We're not a research institute. So this is what we're not. As I mentioned, we sell chips. So that's the only product that we have. So we sell chips. We have a very nice success story about designing chips very nicely for cameras. Cameras and let me say in cameras in general. And now we're trying to specialize that into cameras for the car. I just mentioned about we're leading in this sector. So chances are that if you take your camera, your security camera that you have at home, or your doorbell, you open it up, you will see the chip inside, which is an Ambarella chip. So this, at the end of this year, I think we will reach 300 million chips powering 300 million cameras in the world. So it's a big, we're leading the market in security cameras control, access control, and we are expanding into the automotive market. So we already are into serious production for dash cameras, e-mirror and stuff like that. But we now want to address the ADAS and autonomous driving market. So that's the reason why at the early days, so 6 years ago, Ambarella acquired VisLab to bring that experience into the chip. So the question is, so we are selling chips. So it's pretty strange, company compared to what usually, the company that usually works on autonomous driving. But the question is how to make sure our chips match what the car makers want. So we are designing chips that are not general purpose. So we're not designing GPUs, very general GPUs or very general microprocessors. We're designing chips with the specific application in mind. So we have a very specific application. We try to optimize the chip around that application. So there's only one way to design the chip very precisely for that specific application. So, and the way is to replicate the whole system. So design the whole autonomous driving stack, do all the testing, do all the development, and realize and create autonomous driving technology, the whole autonomous driving technology, and then try to see if our chip can really work in that domain. And if it doesn't, if, for example, some operations are not very successful or not very efficient, we take note of that and we change. And then with the next generation of the chip, we would have all these changes incorporated. So the idea is that if we have all the whole autonomous driving stack to be developed, we also need testing. And that's the reason why testing is one of our core activities. It's one of the most important core activities, because after the development, you do the testing. We have been doing tests on the road for, again, I mentioned 20 years, but it's more than 20 years. So this is, these are two pictures of our original vehicle in the 90s. Actually, the first test was done in 1998, when there were no regulations on the road anywhere in the world. And we were just a bunch of laboratories in the world that were doing this. So not many people were doing autonomous driving in the 90s. But now there are regulations. Here in Italy, we have a specific decree that regulates how to do testing on road. And by the way, in this picture, you can see the car number 1. So that's the driving permit number 1 that we have for Italy. And I think we are the only one in Italy allowed to do testing on normal road, open roads. We do have autonomous driving permits in Italy, in California, in Nevada. And for example, this is a picture of our cars in a charging station in Nevada. So we're doing tests in different parts of the world. And there's a reason for that, because I will touch on that in a couple of minutes, but we need a lot of data. So I just mentioned that I would have shared with you what testing is for us. So testing is not just driving. So it's not just putting the car on the road and then drive and test it. That's not the, I mean, it's important, but it's not the core. So there are a number of activities that you need to do before putting your car on the road. So I just listed some of them. So implement safe vehicular modifications. For example, put the sensors in a safe way on the car. Be sure that you have some ways to disengage the car when the car is engaged. Develop safe software. So you have to have a full software cycle that will allow for checking, intermediate checking on the safety of the software that you're developing. So you'll not just write some code and then go on the car and run. So it's a different aspect. And then preparing safe drivers and operator, that's very important as well, because the people that are on the car during the tests need to be aware of their own limits and the limits of the software, the limits of the car, and they need to know how to react to some possibly unknown situations. So the important part is to prepare people and to train people to do the driver or the operator on the car. And of course, defining safe test conditions. So you cannot go just whenever you want on the road. If your car is not able to handle rain, you just have to stop when it's raining. So this is just an example, but you really have to define when and where to test. And then finally, you go and hit the road and drive on the road. So driving on the road is important, but it's not the most important thing. So you have to have a number of activities performed before. We have been testing on different countries, as I was mentioning, and we have experience of very different countries. For example, in Italy, I mentioned we have the ministry approval for testing on open roads. And when you ask for this permission, you need to present a kind of track record of what you have been doing in the past. So you need to expose your experience. So having an experience is mandatory in Italy. Then once you have to go and hit the road, you need to communicate with the road manager. And for example, we give to the road manager the list of roads that we're going to use in the next, for example, 10 days. And the road manager comes back to us, for example, if there are some strange conditions, unpredictable situations like roadworks or some strange things happening on that road. And finally, the ministry gets all the data that we generate while we do the tests. So there is a very nice communication between the operator, ourselves, the road manager, and the ministry, and we're working all together, and we're sharing the data together. And I think that's pretty important. We have experience in other countries, like for example, Nevada, where you don't really need specific experience to go on the road and do the testing, not even for drivers, because you could be just getting on the car for the first time, and you could go to Nevada and test. The important thing there is that you have to have a very big insurance covering for your possible problems. And so there are differences between Italy and other countries as well, and Nevada or other countries like that. And there are also countries in between, like California. We have the permit there, and that's something in between the strict restrictions of Italy and openness of Nevada. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but actually, if you do the testing in Italy, that's intrinsically more, it's a safer because you need to prove that you have experience in doing that. That's hard for new companies to enter this safety, this testing opportunity. In Nevada, it's different because they are promoting fast progress. So anybody can go there and do the testing and improve the progress on autonomous driving. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, testing on the road is important. There are also many other things before, but once you've done all the things before, then there's testing. There's on-road driving that needs to be done. And that is the most extensive and long activity that you have to do, because you need to expose your technology to different road infrastructure, weather, scenarios, traffic, including unlawful behaviors that we have been encountering sometime. So you need really to stress a lot your technology to expose it to as many corner cases as possible, because it's when you hit a corner case that you really learn. If everything was working correctly and perfectly, I mean, you would never learn anything. So it's when something doesn't work and that you learn and try to fix that. So in order to hit as many corner cases as possible, I would like to share our experience, but most of the companies do like this. So we need to drive a large number of kilometers. So travel a large number of kilometers in autonomous mode in order to, again, to expose the vehicle to different situations. Of course, you can do that if you ramp up in the number of cars. So you can have many cars, you can use a fleet of vehicles. So you do in parallel, many different kilometers in parallel, as long as you have enough cars. And of course, you need to do that in different countries, in different continents, in different situations, because then you can really make a good use of all your fleet. If you just run your fleet in a specific and local environment, you would never get exposed to so many different corner cases. But then there's one more thing that's important to note, is that you don't really just need to have an autonomous car driving around to get the corner cases. You can even get corner cases even if you have a fleet of cars instrumented with your own technology, but the vehicle is not automatic, it's not autonomous, it's not driving by itself. It's just driven by some people, some operator. And you can learn a lot by checking the difference between the operator's behavior and the vehicle's behavior. So what the vehicle would do in that situation. And somebody mentioned that as a ghost mode. So if you put your vehicle in autonomous mode, but without actually giving the vehicle the possibility to control the actuators on the car. And if you do that, you record a lot of data. And with these data, you can get back to the laboratory and understand when the vehicle did something different from what the operators did. In that case, you learn. So especially now with deep learning and convolutional neural network, as we were mentioning in some presentations before, big data is becoming so important now. And data acquisition is something that it's taking a lot of our time. So not just the first part, but also when you put together all the safety requirements. But we're taking a lot of time in doing the real data acquisitions. And remember, big data is one thing, but good data is a different thing. So you need to have good data, the right data. So when you do acquisitions, you need to be able to select the information that you need to train your networks or to improve your system. You just don't need to go and drive for 1,000 kilometers on the same road every day. You need the diversity. Diversity is the good thing. And a good data means diversity, means acquiring data in different conditions. So I will have my conclusions here. So we've been doing this kind of work for, let me say, more than 20 years now. So developing the software, developing the hardware, and doing the test on road. 20 years in which we've been traveling with our cars in many different countries, even when there were no regulations, because we started well before the regulations were in place. For example, we traveled all the way from Parma to Shanghai in autonomous mode, and that was done more than 10 years ago, actually, 11 years ago. So we do have a lot of experience in that. We did a lot of testing, and now we're ramping up with the number of roads. Of course, now there are regulations. We're just selecting the countries in which regulations are there. We're increasing the number of countries and continents, increasing the number of vehicles, and we're doing that with possible partners. So we're trying to select the best partners that can join us and for example, give us their fleet of vehicles to install our technology on them. And so we're in the process of scaling up the number of vehicles in this way. So getting some partners, because again, getting a lot of data is important. Getting the good data is important, because with a lot of data, you can do a lot of development, and development means higher safety. So we're bringing together all the pieces that I mentioned to reach higher safety in our cars. Thank you so much. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alberto. That was an interesting presentation on the work that you're all doing. So I'm going to move on to the next presentation, and this is a presentation from PIARC Task Force B2 report autonomous vehicle presentation. And this is Miss Luz Jimenez Ortega is presenting, and Secretary of PIARC Task Force B2 from Spain. So, Anna?
Thank you. I'm trying to share now. I think it's working. Yes. So to share my screen. Yes. So, well, I'm going to present the work of the Task Force B2 group for automated vehicles, challenges and opportunities for road operators and road authorities. This is the index of the presentation. We are going through the report, the final report. And the need of this report is because in the last few years, different levels of automation have been tested all over the world. But we wanted to know how this is going to impact in road network operators and authorities. So we have gone through all the literature and case studies that are being published and are working around the world. And we have reached out that there are some very important items that we have to deal with to face this challenge of the automated vehicles. So we have studied that we are going to have impacts not only in technical areas, but in not technical areas such as responsibility, insurance, and social issues. So we have to deal with non-technical areas. Fortunately, we have members from these issues, so we take their opinion and their work into account. And we finalize the report with several recommendations for all the actors involved in PIARC and in other countries. The first problem we have detected for automated vehicles related to infrastructure is the need of harmonization of road signs. Because we can have different approaches, alternative approach, but it's a challenge for automated vehicles. Yesterday evening, we have in Spain a meeting about road works about and car manufacturers were there, and they put the light in this item because it's very complicated for them. So we can go through this problem, adding digitalization and connectivity to this item, to this thing. But not only fixed signal is in the road, we have different types of dynamic signs. We have identified 4 main types, and the system, the traffic sign recognition, has to deal with these categories, and we have some problems about that. We have to deal with the not all the traffic sign recognition systems are currently able to consistently read dynamic signs. The refresh rate is a problem because we have to develop a standard for the refresh rate of electronic signs to enable the TSR to see them properly. In-vehicle signage with the help of roadside units and obvious in vehicles can help, but it's an important item that not all the system can recognize properly the signs. So a digital assistant is needed to understand what is happening in the road. We detect that lane markings has to be complete with global navigation satellite system positioning. And there are another initiatives in Japan, for instance, with magnetic markers and magnetic induction lines that are being examined for some automated driving technologies in Japan, because maybe that something additional is needed to the performance of the automated vehicles. In other parts of the world, another approach is being developed with static or electronic signs with landmark information such as QR codes, Wi-Fi, or dedicated short-range communication that gives the information to the automated vehicle to know what is happening, which are the lane markings in the road. Some automated vehicle systems, such as low-speed shuttles, may have limited localization capabilities and may use sensor data in combination with high-definition maps, which we are going to talk a bit later. Buildings, utility poles, signs, or other distinctive landscape features may be used as landmark or mounting location for positioning devices to complete all the information needed. But we have to take into account a lot of additional items related to road geometry, infrastructure, like sign placement, pavement marking, and dedicated lanes in case. Universal design needs to be upgraded. The crossings is a complex scenario. Emergency stop areas or hard shoulders has to be taken into account because maybe the automated car needs to stop and it has to stop in a safe place. There is a discussion about safe harbors or hard shoulders that can be used in any time, or only safe harbors that can be used where they are located. Another important issue is how sensor works in a bad weather condition. We can see here how LiDAR is working if some types of them, of course, in a snow condition, in bad weather condition. What happens with low frictions with all the sensors needed. We have go through the impact on the infrastructure of the platooning because there is a positive effect of increased vehicle capacity on roads and bridge, but we have to take into account the impact of this platooning, maybe in about the strength that may need to be reviewed of the bridge, collision on supports, or centrifugal forces on curved decks, braking forces. So this has to be taken into account in the maintenance and even design the road. So maybe is needed, some change are needed in the infrastructure to facilitate this platooning that, as we have seen in other presentation, is very positive measure to increase capacity of the infrastructure and the delivery of goods that are very important in all the countries. But where road capacity is limited, we maybe road authorities must consider dedicated lanes for public transport, and we have to balance all the needs in the road, as the road is a limited space. So we have to use it in the more efficient way we can. But in the report, we have go through the city planning that has to impact in a very short, very strong relationship with automated vehicles. In the urban sprawl model, automated vehicles have the potential to make travel more convenient, comfortable, and increasing tolerance to longer commute times. But in a urban densification model, automated vehicles also have the potential to reduce parking needs in the city and put in value the walking, the green space, and so on. But public transit has to be taken into account, and we thought that it's a very strong recommendation for road authorities to incorporate connected and autonomous vehicles impact into the planning decision for new infrastructure and public investment, because they are coming, they have a positive potential that can be introduced in the planning decision for road authorities. Automated vehicles are going to have impact into maintenance strategies for road operators because some of the lane markings or pavement, it's very important. The quality of the lane markings and the state of the pavement has a real impact in the performance of these automated vehicles. So they have to be taken into account in the maintenance strategies. So we have gone in the report through that. But the clear need that automated and connected vehicles lights up is the connectivity is the base for our progress in this scenario. So we have to take into account the limitation we can find to this connectivity. So automated driving technology is now mainly based on sensing systems, but we have to be conscious about the limitation of these sensors we are using now to avoid the negative impact of this limitation. And so some case studies are required, use cases are required to know and to have the security about the connectivity, how it's working in high-speed roads and ordinary roads. As the information about what is happening there is very important for automated vehicles. These are some case studies and some needs that has to be taken into account. About this requirement of connectivity, I'm going to be fast in this area. We need to have into our mind that we have the information has been developed, spread to the automated and connected vehicle in the proper place, with no delay. If the latency is an important matter that we have to take into account, depending on the technology we are going to use and which data rate we are going to make arrive to the vehicle and the vehicle to the infrastructure or other element to be connected to. So these are some cases of the different communication technologies, that how they are proper with depending on the use we are going to do by this connectivity. Very special, very important item we have identified in the report, necessity of the digital map and positioning is clear. That is the great base for the development of automated and connected vehicles. The automated vehicles relies on navigation and road positioning and driving in traffic. They need this information, in this clear information, exact information to performance in a proper way. So the digital map and positioning becomes as a great basis, the principal basis to proper performance of the automated vehicles. Some items have to be taken into account, which is the base map, the ownership of this map, how changes in the map are going to be and translate to the automated vehicles. How are they going to be dealt with? Here we have in Europe the example of the European Commission TN ITS Inspired programs that is working in this sense. No? It's very important, the digital twin. So we have the physical infrastructure, and we need the digital twin of this infrastructure that relies in an exact way and what is physical for the automated vehicle. The positioning, as said before, is crucial, is very, very important. How we deal with the blind spots, maybe we need to have another information to the performance of the automated vehicles when we have this blind spot of the global navigation satellite system positioning. So we think that is going to be developed a digital infrastructure which has the map, the positioning, and what is happening, the information about what is happening in the physical infrastructure. This digital infrastructure is providing the support for internal procedures for automated vehicles, give services to external users, including traveler information services, and support to this automated and connected vehicle. We were studying in the report the infrastructure support levels for automated driving. ISAT focus on missing traffic condition and define the level of support for others as well as for non-equipped vehicles, to enable all vehicles within the road network to be supported with respective services. Is a great basis to classify how automated vehicles are performing, but we have to take into account the penetration rate of this type of vehicle. Automated vehicles are going to bring into the market now in a slow way, so we have to deal with the mixed traffic, normal or not autonomous, not connected and connected and autonomous vehicles. So we are going to deal with the very complex scenario next years. We need some tools like ISAT to know what is happening in our roads. These are some a very important issue is about data. Who is the owner? The consistency of the data, how are they helping to this digital environmental where automated vehicles are going to perform. The data has sharing data is a very important topic. We have to take into account that not all the partners are going or are willing to share all the data. We have to take into account legal aspects on data, privacy and data protection, the cost of this data, and the trusted data environments. But we are really concerned about the positive impacts autonomous vehicles are going to have in our roads, about safety and about congestion. So that's why we think that we have to improve the automated and connected vehicle in our roads, because they are going to give us positive results in these two main areas of the performance of the roads. The main impacts on road network operations of the automated vehicles that we identified in the report are platooning, automated shuttle in urban and rural environments. How can road network operators help connected and autonomous vehicle on work zones and incidents, because it is a critical aspect, and how can we obtain profit from these vehicles, automated vehicles and connected vehicles, for traffic management issues. About responsibility, we are aware about there are a number of challenges and unknowns with regard the responsibility and obligation of the different actors involved in CAPs and deployment and operation. And road network operation has to consider insurance and responsibility of the driver, of the car manufacturer, and of the proper road net operator about related to the road, and some aspects about cost, benefits, and financing can be has to be studies, because most of the research today indicates uncertainty about the possible system, as we don't know how is ongoing technical and digital development of the road transport system in the world system. So there are some uncertainty and some things we don't know yet how they are going to works, but in the report we have a chapter dealing with this aspect. As I said before, we have social issues, and the consideration of human factors became important, relevant in this when we are talking about automated vehicles. Why are we have to explain society why are positive, why good these automated vehicles, and well, here we can find the motivation for seeking automation that we have collected in the report, which are the potential safety benefits that are important, and we have studied the limitation of potential benefits of automated vehicles by range of human factors. So maybe if we have technology over railings, we have this limitation when we have if we have driver overload or driver distraction when started by alerts, when we have drivers failing to trust or accept this technology, when if maybe we can find loss of driver skills. So we have to deal with not only technical but social issues in this item. We identified 11 challenges about these new human factors that can arise, and you can find it in a more detailed way in the report. And finish with the conclusions. We need for vehicle automation, at least levels 3, 4, and 5 is still in a testing phase. So in most countries in the world, in many situations, drivers must still take the control. We have detected that it's clear that to reach the higher levels of the automation, some support from the infrastructure is expected to be needed. We think that is clearly needed. And regarding the impact on congestion, some models showed that it will be negative at low penetration rates and grow positive in a long-term period. the report ends with recommendation for decision makers, for road operator and road authorities in short terms and mid and long term, for low and medium income countries, and for PIARC 2. So I finish here my presentation, and I would like to introduce Ms. Elena Sabatini from the Italian country to talk about this report too. So please, Elena.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Elena Sabatini. I'm from the Italian National Committee. Thank you, Ana Luz, for introducing me. The report of the Task Force B2 on automated vehicles that Ana Luz has just presented is a very important document for all road operators and authorities all over the world. That is why it was a pleasure for us from the Italian National Committee to translate in Italian this report. And we are very glad to share it with you here today in order to contributing to the work that PIARC International is carrying on and spreading all the knowledge that we share. So we thank you again. I thank you all the members of the Technical Committee on Road Safety, and I thank you also my National Committee. We are all a big team, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for those wonderful presentations. We're going to be moving into the question and answer session, and I think we are a little bit behind, but it's important, I think, to go through the discussion. Before I do that, I did want to present just another document, some work that was done by the PIARC National Committee, and I think as well, Leonardo Annese had a very important part of this discussion. In their document is automated vehicles, a jump into the 21st century in ethical, social, and safety aspects or issues. So for those of you who might wish to, I will go ahead and just quickly, I think I might have switched the screens there. So let me, am I sharing?
You were
pardon me?
You were sharing, but not everyone.
John, do you want me to share it?
Are you seeing that on the screen right now?
Yeah.
So that is the document, and my apologies, I'm working off of multiple screens here, and I don't see the color around it, but that is the document and done by the Italian PIARC National Committee.
And there is also an English version for those who do not speak Italian, of course.
Yes, thank you very much, Leonardo. Now I'd like to move into questions. So let me call that up just really quickly. All right. You know, one question I had, and this would be to James, and James, one of the issues that many agencies have is the issue of when to do what in terms of changing their infrastructure systems. So from a safety perspective, when I begin to implement connected and automated vehicles, when should I change my road markings, for instance, is a question that I have before me, and I'm sure that many other agencies will have to make those decisions. Is there a word of advice, thoughts that you might have on those sorts of issues?
You know, I wish I had a complete and easy answer to give you, John. The reality is that there are things that research indicate to us, such as wider pavement markings are better, reinforcement signage is better. You know, things that are helpful to humans for understanding are reinforcements for, you know, for most supervised and unsupervised learning algorithms, like CNN or ANN. This is still very much under study, but it hasn't really translated yet into policy. I think that as we go through further experiences through field operational tests and deployment grants, we'll have a much better sense of how to develop policy. And of course, we're going to be working with stakeholders such as AASHTO, stakeholder organizations like AASHTO, National Association of City Engineers and City Transportation, County Transportation officials to develop what those kinds of guidelines may be.
All right, thank you very much. And Alberto, a question came to you that whether you've looked at traffic control displays, signals and changeable message signs, LED flicker rate issues that IEEE has a committee working on recommendations. Have you looked at different issues related to the electronic systems, and if you could discuss that maybe?
Well, actually, what we're trying to do is the other way around. So we try to instruct our vehicles to make good use of what you have right now. So as you were mentioning, even 1 minute before, 1 minute ago, about the lane markings. So we try to, with CNNs, we try to instruct the car to understand lane markings, even when they are worn out or when they are missing, because there is some structure of the road where you can, that can help you understand where the road marking should be. So again, we're doing the other way around. So we're trying to solve the issue from the point of view of the vehicle, rather than having some help from the infrastructure. Then, of course, if you're having help from the infrastructure, that would be just fine, amazing. But again, we're now doing the hard job first. So trying to solve with the intelligence on the car.
Thank you very much. Luz Jimenez, a question on whether or not the documents that you've produced have discussed in particular kind of the transition zones between the urban and urban situations, and how we might treat the system for connected and automated vehicles.
Yes, well, in DGT 3.0, we are using the same platform for urban or inter-urban areas. So we are breaking this barrier of the urban and urban from the so incidents has to be included into the platform, independent if they come from urban area or not urban area. Now, the information of incidents, maybe weather condition, is mainly related to the non-urban area due to the fact that the basis is the national access point related to roads, but we are including urban information about low emission zones and so on. And about as Alberto has said, the car is now developing, the automated car is developing to perform even if in any scenario, but maybe it's time to make the system more efficient, working together. What is needed by the car and what can offer the road. So I think some information can be shared, and I think it will be easier and cheaper for us.
Or if I can comment on that, that's definitely a good idea. I'm not saying that is wrong. I mean, it's saying that we are not doing that. So we're just working on the car because that's our main business. But of course, if you can have connection, that would be great.
All right, so I'm going to present one more quick question to all the presenters. And I always like these words of advice sorts of questions. So what is the one word of advice you would give to a country or an agency on what we should be doing next in terms of preparation for CAV? And because I asked this question in particular because there's a national perspective, a vendor's perspective, and an agency perspective that I can come from here.
If you want, I can just give my 2 cents about this discussion. So actually, what I mentioned about the on-road testing, which is really important for us, and it would be very nice for us to be able to move around different countries and do the road tests with the same rules, with the same regulations. Now we have permits that can allow us to go in different countries, like I mentioned Nevada, and I said California, Italy. Then every single country has its own regulation, and we need to have, the paperwork behind that is amazing. So one thing that could help getting data, getting tests, is to have regulation which are at least similar, if not the same.
Excellent. James, thoughts?
The immediate thing that comes to mind is have a good understanding of your information and communications technology and the maturity level of that. And it's even within the United States, that it in itself is a challenge. You don't have to go too far outside of a metropolitan area where access to high-speed ICT becomes a challenge. I'm sure there are places, within 40 miles or 70 kilometers of Seattle where ICT really becomes difficult to obtain. And it's just a matter of terrain issues. It's a matter of simple market dynamics of that being available. So so having an assessment of ICT, I think, is going to be really, really critical for many organizations and many nations.
Thank you very much. And Anna, your thoughts, please.
Yes, I think that we need to join efforts because no, it's not necessary to go isolate. So in maybe by regions, United States, America, Europe, but we need to have coordinated performance because cars are going to be developed in all regions in the world. So maybe PIARC has a very interesting role here to harmonize what is happening in the roads and to make the link with the manufacturers, with car manufacturers, to face this challenge, because we have a very great potential to increase safety, to decrease congestion, and maybe we are in the proper time to make correct decision to be more efficient in this item.
All right, so thank you very much. And with that, I'll go ahead and sum up the first day. Today we heard a number of different discussions about CAV road safety implications in a global view, as well as the implication in different approaches to addressing CAV and its implementation. It's important, I heard from the discussions, it's important to consider the human and what it means essentially as a driver, and that we don't lose the knowledge and capabilities of those drivers as we transition from the fleets. And we think about those drivers in terms of injury minimization and reduction of force on their bodies in terms of a crash. It's important to maintain and operate speeds overall. We also heard about the importance of data and of being transmitted vehicles to infrastructure systems to people, and how important that will be to maintain those sorts of infrastructures as we move forward. And there are a lot of difficult decisions, the transition, urban rural situations, suburban and urban situations that we need to think about as we implement and bring in CAV to our overall systems. And there are many different countries, and within many different countries, many municipalities, states, provinces, whatever it may be, that make it somewhat difficult and at times very difficult to bring systems in and to implement systems, because there's so many different criteria and ways of doing business. Ultimately, I would sum up and say that it's about road safety. It's about the provision, as it was said in one of the presentations. It's about safety, but it's about sustainability, mobility, safe mobility, equity, and all the considerations that we have to take into creating a holistic, fully thought out system. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Leonardo and Matts for a conclusion.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. I know you must be really tired since you woke up so early this morning. I know it's not fair that we in Europe, we get the middle of the time zones, so it's good for us. But for our friends in Asia and in the United States, you're in the west side. It's I'm sure it's not very easy. Thank you. First, I want to thank you all for participating. It's been a very interesting first day. Tomorrow, I will read today's program so that you will know what we're going to talk about it tomorrow. So we are going to have two sessions. Again, the first session is the human factor and social implications of automatic vehicles and roads. And we will be presenting a platform, You Drive For Me platform, which is a product of the Italian National Committee. And it's an interactive platform based on a survey, an interactive survey with questions. And our scope is to induce consciousness and knowledge of automated driving through a survey. Then we will have presenting a project, Pascal, which is a European funded project. And then we have the University of Milano presenting another important presentation, personal autonomy in driving automation from theory to practice. Then we have another European project called Trustonomy, Human-Centered Design in Automated Vehicles. Then we will have Hans Gotthelf. Actually, Hans, I'm sorry, but he will not be able to participate. But this is a very important presentation, ADAS implementation in low middle income countries. That's a subject that many of you have stressed as important. So we have the honor of having it presented by another friend from PIARC, Hamid, who we are really honored to have him presenting this important presentation. Then we have Professor Stefano Crisci, who you already met before, on AV ethical implications and what he calls the algorithmics. Then we have three psychologists from the Italian Working Group, Ethical, Social, and Safety Issues, Psychological Factors on Automated Vehicle Acceptance, which is quite a new thing for PIARC to have a psychological approach to transport. Then we have myself on access to automated vehicles. That is more centered on disabilities, because we have to know how people can have access to transport, even people that are not as fortunate as most of us. Then Q&A debate. And this session will be chaired by Lucy, no, by sorry,
some other woman.
It's the other woman. Yes.
Lisa.
Lisa.
Please, it's for Lise. I'm sorry, Lise. Don't hate me for this. And then session 3 is going to be on safe interest, so the connected infrastructure, and how all these technological systems are implemented on roads. So we have the first one on ANAS, which is an Italian National Highway Road Agency, and with their project, Smart Road project. Then we have 2 example best practices in motorways in the north. And we have Stefano Cremonini and Sabato Fusco, and they will show us how they implemented connected infrastructures. We call them smart roads. Then we have Israeli friend from Mobileye. Mobileye is a PIARC member, and we're very proud to have this big society, important society in our family. And they will talk about their products implemented on vehicles and roads. And then, last but not least, we will talk about smart signaling. Anna Luz before talked about signaling and how it has to change according to the new cars, smart cars, connected cars, and IoT, because it cannot be just the way that it was. So we are studying what kind of materials and what kind of language these signing have to adopt. And that's all for tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to find it very, very important and interesting, as well as of today. And that's about it from me. I want to thank also Matts-Ake for being co-leader of our working group, and that's all. Welcome to Nazir Alli, of course, our new president of PIARC, was just being elected. In case you missed that, Mr. Ali, Nazir Alli is the first president of PIARC coming from the African continent. He's from South Africa. President Ali, welcome. If you want to spend a word of confidence, you want to say something.
Thank you, Leonardo. Other than say thank you very much for all the presentations which have been made this morning or this afternoon for some of us, and the excellent work which has been done under the auspices of the Italian National Committee by TC 3.1. I think, if I got the numbers right. If I haven't, please forgive me if I got it right. But the excellent presentations done. It's a very, very informative session that we've had, and I look forward to the one for tomorrow as well. Thank you. Bye all.
You're welcome, President. Someone must excuse me. Reading tomorrow's program, I forgot to talk about CETA, which is another important society which is implementing the ADAS and other technological instrumentation on Italian roads. We have Stefano Cremonini here. I just saw hello, Stefano. I'm sorry I missed you before, and that's about it. And if I can ask you to turn on the cams, because we can take a group picture, and so we can all see your faces, who, if you're not asleep or just faking your presence. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Someone's still missing. If Miguel can also take a picture. Okay, just a second. I'm waiting for just a couple more. You can take all the picture and have it shared on your social medias or emails, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever you want, and let people know that we're a big family, and all the experts present today. I'm really proud of you all. And Mats, you want to spend a final word?
No, I don't want to extend the day. It's been a great day, and thank you very much, John, for a great moderator today. It's been a great day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Matt.
Like if Miguel wants to play the Rome promotional video, we would leave with a sweet and with beauty in our eyes and have dinner or lunch or whatever we're having now.
I'm afraid I don't have the video to project it. Sorry, Leonardo.
Okay.
Alexander had it.
We'll see it. We'll see it tomorrow anyway.
We can see that tomorrow again.
Anyway, you're all invited in Rome whenever this pandemic is over. We all hope as soon as possible. Okay, John, last word from you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for participating. We hope to see you tomorrow. It's been a great day, as others have said, and a great exchange of information. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll go ahead and close the session.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.